Chapter 61. The Invitation from White Heavy Industries. Yufei, didn't I tell you to stay home? What are you doing here? Lin Fan asked, looking displeased at the woman who had suddenly appeared. Luna, who was also there, took her arm, saying, Yufei, what a coincidence. Lin Fan chuckled. I doubt it's a coincidence. Yufei, tell me, how did you know I was taking this flight? It's just a coincidence. I just wanted to go out and have some fun. There are no coincidences like that in this world. You probably installed a tracking app, didn't you? Hearing this, Yufei was speechless. It was indeed a tracking app. She hadn't expected Lin Fan to have found out so soon. I'm sorry, I was worried about you. No need to worry. I'm not a 3-year-old. Besides, we're divorced. I don't need to report to you where I'm going. With that, he walked out of their sight. Yufei felt a little like crying. Luna quickly explained to her, Lin Fan and I went too. She explained the events of the past few days to Yufei, not wanting to cause any misunderstandings between the two, as they were still considered friends. After listening, Yufei's mood stabilized considerably. When she and Lin Fan were still dating, he had told her that his younger sister had been kidnapped by human traffickers. It seemed that Miss Luna hadn't lied. He and Lin Fan were indeed searching for his sister, not secretly going on dates behind her back. Lin Fan didn't seem to want to sit with her. So, the two girls sat together and started gossiping. During their conversation, Luna mentioned something. After returning from Longtu Village, they had gone to see Mr. Fan in Taosha City. The cooperation talks went very well. However, they still didn't secure the project. Yufei couldn't help but wonder, with the financial strength and influence of the Hanhai Group, why wouldn't securing a project be an easy task? I thought it was a sure thing. Mayor Fan seemed very easy to talk to. But when we got there, we met a woman who liked to cross her legs, Luna said, her eyes flashing with something odd when she spoke about the woman. The woman had no expression on her face, just like Lin Fan. Through their conversation, Luna learned that the woman was the president of White Heavy Industries, and she was determined to win the project. Of course, the Hanhai Group didn't want to back down. Both sides argued their points, demonstrating the powerful strengths of their respective companies. The woman first stated that their company was strong in civil engineering, having undertaken many large national-level projects, always completing them flawlessly. Lin Fan wasn't one to be outdone. He argued that the Hanhai Group's brand effect could bring in more tourists. Furthermore, if a tourist city were to be built, the large influx of tourists could, in turn, increase tax revenue. It would be a win-win for both sides. Plus, their group's financial resources were quite abundant, far stronger than White Heavy Industries. Yufei thought for a moment. It was true that the Hanhai Group had more advantages. Projects should prioritize returns. The Hanhai Group can bring more revenue to Xianan City. That's the main point. That's what I thought too. But the other party kept fixating on one point. White Heavy Industries argued that the Hanhai Group had never undertaken a construction project, while they were veterans in the construction industry, with decades of history in civil engineering construction. They could also create the best products at the lowest prices. Both sides stood by their respective arguments, unable to reach an agreement. Mr. Fan couldn't make a decision right away. He needed to go back and discuss it with his staff. He told them to go back for now and wait for news. Luna waved her hand. So that's why Lin Fan is in a bad mood. He doesn't have a good attitude towards you. Yufei, don't overthink it. Okay, Yufei said, not knowing if she really understood, but nodding anyway. Then she asked Luna. Yufei learned the woman's name. She then searched for the woman's information on the internet. Zhou Mei, female, 28 years old, president of White Heavy Industries. She was very young to have taken the helm of White Heavy Industries. Everyone called her a genius. She herself had once said, "Genius is only 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." After finishing my PhD in civil engineering, I don't know how many years I toiled at construction sites before achieving what I have today. It's definitely not talent. It's endless hard work day and night. She seemed like a practical, hands-on woman. The reason Yufei was searching for Zhou Mei's information was to help Lin Fan alleviate some pressure, to prove that she wasn't a woman without any abilities. While searching for information, she came across a report. Shocking. The president of White Heavy Industries has never been in a relationship. It's unbelievable. The report stated that Zhou Mei only focused on work. She never went out with men for dates, dinner, or movies. And she didn't have many female friends either. Yufei felt that her opportunity had arrived. If there was one thing she was good at, it was her wide social circle. If she could become friends with Zhou Mei, maybe she could help Lin Fan secure the project. At the very least, she could get some information about the other party. Without delay, Yufei gathered information that Zhou Mei frequently visited a certain bar. She secretly took note of the bar's name. Meanwhile, Lin Fan was also worried about the project. Mr. Fan was very upright. He never favored anyone. Projects like this often went to those who had the ability, not just to those who were close to him. That wouldn't be fair to either side. White Heavy Industries was mainly controlled by Zhou Mei. If he wanted to win this project, it was inevitable that he would have to engage her. Having one more friend is better than having one more enemy. Perhaps he should talk to her offline and discuss their views on the project. So Lin Fan found her phone number. He dialed. "Hello, this is White Heavy Industries. How may I help you?" A cold female voice came from the other end of the line. Lin Fan replied, "Hello, I'm Lin Fan, the president of Hanhai Group. We met at Mr. Fan's today." "Oh, Mr. Lin, what can I do for you?" "If you're thinking of convincing me to give up, there's no need. This tourist city project is very important to our company. We're determined to secure it. Of course, if you want to make friends, I welcome that. After all, we have a bit of a connection." Lin Fan didn't know what she meant by connection. They hadn't contacted each other before and hadn't even met before that day. Zhou Mei mentioned the mother of the Spirit Foreign Trade Company. It turned out that they were sisters. Zhou Mei was the daughter of the mother's stepmother. She was, in a way, the mother's sister and also Eric's aunt. Their family relationships were just too complicated. Lin Fan did have a connection to the Spirit Foreign Trade Company, but it was a business connection. The other party also extended an invitation to him. "I really like a bar called Queen. If you want one more friend, you can come find me there. I look forward to seeing you." Chapter 62. Call me Sister May. Okay? Several days had passed since then. There was some good news and some bad news. First, his sister called him and said that the man would likely be imprisoned for several years. The witness was Brother Long, who had come to the police station to turn him in. He had even said that he was doing this to eliminate a pest for the people. She believed that their divorce proceedings would soon be finalized. The man had been suspected of domestic violence, and according to legal procedures, she could unilaterally file for divorce. At the same time, his sister Yushuan also expressed her longing for Lin Fan. She would go to Xinan City to see him when she had the time. She would be sure to treat her brother to a good meal, to thank him for taking care of her so much. Her last words were, "I will always love you, brother." Hearing this news, the gloom that had clouded Lin Fan's life for many years slowly began to dissipate. His sister's happiness was all that mattered. The other good news was about the Iron Blood Club matter. Since Lu Wei was arrested, his sister Lu Jejia had repeatedly sought him out, wanting to get a letter of leniency for her brother. Considering that the information she provided was valid, and that Lu Jejia was very sincere, often bringing conditions he couldn't refuse, the letter of leniency was sent to the court. The court's review process wouldn't be fast, but with a letter of leniency, Lu Wei most likely wouldn't be imprisoned for too long. He might even get probation. As for Li Sheng, a mysterious person bailed him out. The Hanhai Group had investigated from all sides, but they couldn't find out who the person was or why they were helping Li Sheng. Overall, it was considered bad news. There was also the matter of Su Yufei. Recently, Su Yufei had been leaving early and coming home late, without anyone knowing what she was doing. One thing that could be confirmed was that she hadn't betrayed him. Whenever he called her to his room, Su Yufei would cooperate, and he could see the excitement on her face. It seemed that Su Yufei enjoyed being toyed with, and her sensitivity was growing more intense. Sometimes when he kissed her, she would tremble all over, her desire seemingly reaching its peak. But the two of them hadn't taken that final step. Lin Fan thought it was too early to give it to her, as it would only make her feel too pleased with herself, which wouldn't be good. The things one can't have are the most precious. He believed that when that day came, Su Yufei would definitely present a side of herself he had never seen before. He was busy at work, and time flew by quickly. Looking at his watch, it was already 8 p.m. It was time to meet Zhou Mei. Lin Fan changed into casual clothes and left work early. At this time, at the Queen Bar, Su Yufei ordered a Bloody Mary, the sound of deafening rock music filling her ears. But she wasn't enjoying the bar's atmosphere. Instead, her beautiful eyes searched for Zhou Mei's figure, as that was the reason she had come. Su Yufei had come many times in the past few days, but she hadn't seen Zhou Mei. Today was her 5th time at the Queen Bar. If she still didn't see Zhou Mei, she would no longer believe what she read online. Just then, the chair next to her made a creaking sound. A woman with long black hair calmly said, "A blue sky, please." The woman's voice was cold, as if carrying a commanding tone, making it impossible to resist. Su Yufei observed the newcomer's appearance by the dim light, and suddenly realized that she was Zhou Mei, the one spoken of in the news. There was one feature that made her easy to identify. Zhou Mei had a mole below her eye. Seeing the beauty mark, Su Yufei was certain that the woman was Zhou Mei. "Hello, are you Ms. Zhou Mei?" "Yes, I am. And you are?" Zhou Mei was a bit surprised, sizing up Su Yufei. Her gaze was predatory, like that of a man with a desire for conquest. Su Yufei politely introduced herself. "Ms. Zhou Mei, my name is Su Yufei. I've seen you in the news. As the president of White Heavy Industries, you're really amazing to be managing such a large company." Amazing is an overstatement. I still have to work hard. "And, Ms. Su Yufei, do you have a boyfriend?" Su Yufei was stunned by the sudden question about her love life, not understanding why Zhou Mei was asking this question. Could it be that she really wanted to understand her relationship status? Plus, she and Lin Fan were now divorced. They had done things they were supposed to do, and things they shouldn't have, and all that was missing was a marriage certificate. So, should they really be considered boyfriend and girlfriend? Thinking that she should have a good relationship with Zhou Mei, she also shouldn't say she had a boyfriend, just like the other party. "No, I'm busy with work and have no time for a boyfriend. I believe, Ms. Zhou, you also don't have a boyfriend, as you're so busy." Zhou Mei smiled slightly. "Let's not be so formal. I'm a few years older than you. How about you call me sister and I call you Yufei, okay?" "Of course. Sister Mei." The blue sky was delivered to Zhou Mei. She glanced at Su Yufei's Bloody Mary. Then she joked, "I'm blue, and you're red. I think the two of us are a good match." Su Yufei was slightly moved by what she said, feeling something strange she couldn't name. Suddenly, some men came to hit on them. "Hey ladies, do you have some time to drink with us?" Several young men with dyed hair came over, holding glasses of alcohol. Su Yufei had been hit on many times, and was just about to ignore them when Zhou Mei's voice spoke calmly. "I'll give you 5 seconds to get lost." Her words were full of threat. Not only did the men not retreat, the leader with the dyed hair laughed loudly. "Ha, this lady has quite a temper. I like this type of girl. Lady, don't be so standoffish. We all start as strangers, we can start as friends." As he spoke, he was also getting handsy. He wanted to take advantage of the alcohol and do something disgusting. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Mei suddenly stood up and pinned the leader to the ground with one hand. The others hadn't had time to react. The man on the floor was screaming like a pig being slaughtered. "Mercy! I think my hand is broken. You dare touch me? Do you know that I have a black belt in judo? Be careful that I don't cripple you." Zhou Mei's movements were very smooth and cool, leaving Su Yufei stunned. The young man yelled that he wouldn't do it again. After being released, the men scrambled to leave. They didn't even dare to look back. Su Yufei sighed with admiration. "Sister Mei, you're so cool." Zhou Mei wiped her hands with alcohol. "I've seen many men like that, who say they want to be friends but really just want to sleep with women. Yufei, you should also stay away from men in the future." "Okay." Su Yufei thought that she might have misunderstood her a bit, but still said okay. The two clinked their glasses and chatted. Without realizing it, both of them were a bit tipsy, their faces flushed. Zhou Mei, not knowing what was happening, put her hand on Su Yufei's face. "Yufei, you're so beautiful. I've never seen a girl like you." She took her hand back. Su Yufei said to Zhou Mei, "Sister, you're drunk. Let me take you back, okay?" "No." Zhou Mei hugged Su Yufei. Chapter 63, Be My Girlfriend. Suddenly being hugged, Su Yufei didn't know what to do. "Sister Mei, you're really drunk. I'll call a cab to take you home right away." Su Yufei supported Zhou Mei by the waist, leaning her against her shoulder. Zhou Mei unexpectedly said no. Her hand that was behind Su Yufei slowly caressed her. Su Yufei really thought it was a bit strange. She pushed Zhou Mei away, asking, "Sister, what exactly are you doing? I've been feeling like something is wrong with you since a while ago." "Yufei, do you really not understand anything?" Not understanding what Zhou Mei meant, Su Yufei just felt like Zhou Mei was getting a bit too close with her. They had only just met. Besides, a girl wouldn't just casually touch another's back. It was as if the other person. Suddenly thinking of something, Su Yufei's face went blank. Seeing the hint of affection in Zhou Mei's eyes, she had to make an assumption. Could it be that, "Sister Mei, you like girls?" Zhou Mei didn't reply, but instead acted to confirm her sexual orientation. Holding Su Yufei's face with both hands, her lips, painted with red lipstick, got closer and closer, about to touch hers. Su Yufei dodged back. Their lips didn't touch. "Sister Mei, I respect your feelings, but I'm a straight woman. Sorry. Rejected. Zhomei laughed bitterly. She released her hold on Su Yufei's hands and kept her distance. No, I should apologize to you. After all, we just met and I suddenly tried to kiss you. It's right for you to reject me. The two fell into silence. Finally, Su Yufei broke the silence. Sister Mei, I think we can be friends. It doesn't have to be that kind of relationship. As friends, I can accompany you to shop, travel, and do crazy things. Isn't this kind of relationship more down-to-earth than a romantic relationship? While she said that, Zhomei didn't agree. A friendship is good, but it can't satisfy the physiological needs of both parties. Su Yufei really had no way of refuting her. She actually had the same thoughts. Since being toyed with by Lin Fan, she was now unable to satisfy herself, only relying on Lin Fan for pleasure. That was the unspoken pain of all women. It's just that Zhomei had a different way of getting pleasure. She preferred women. Sister Mei, I understand how you feel. Zhomei drank her alcohol, asking calmly, then would you be my girlfriend? See, if you don't answer, that means you're refusing. How can you say you understand my feelings then? It seems that we're not destined to be together. Picking up her purse, Zhomei was about to leave. Su Yufei hesitated. The reason she had approached Zhomei was to build a good relationship with her, to ease the pressure on Lin Fan. A strained relationship between them wouldn't be a good thing. Thinking that girls hugging, cuddling, and kissing wasn't really a shameful thing, Su Yufei took a deep breath and grabbed Zhomei's arm as she was about to leave. On the other side, a smile of delight appeared on Zhomei's face. She turned around and pressed her lips against Su Yufei's. Su Yufei was surprised. As she was about to push Zhomei away, the other person hugged her back tightly. She could smell the subtle fragrance of the other woman. Without realizing it, Su Yufei felt dizzy, as if she was short of oxygen. At that moment, a familiar voice came. Su Yufei, what are you doing? Woken by the voice, Su Yufei opened her eyes and saw a tall figure. She pushed away the unsatisfied Zhomei and quickly tried to explain. Lin Fan, let me explain. Things aren't what you think. You've already kissed. What else is there to say? Lin Fan's gaze was cold as he looked down at her. Su Yufei, I've really underestimated your bottom line. You're even okay with women now. Zhomei, who was beside her, licked her lips, as if she had thought of something interesting. She then grabbed Su Yufei's arm and said deliberately, Yufei, didn't you say you don't have a boyfriend? Who is this gentleman? Su Yufei panicked and tried to say, it's not like that. We have a misunderstanding. Just now, you clearly said you didn't have one. Should we look at the security footage to confirm? Yufei, I won't be angry, not like this gentleman. Zhomei pretended to be very concerned. Unexpectedly, Lin Fan wasn't swayed by her words. Ms. Zhou, we've met before. Let's not pretend we don't know each other. Besides, Su Yufei is my woman, and you don't have the right to say anything about her. Hearing these words, Su Yufei came back to life. She hurried to stand beside Lin Fan. Lin Fan warned her, I'll deal with you later. Now, you go home. Do you hear me? But I want to help you. Going home is helping me. I have work to discuss with this Ms. Zhou, and I don't need you here. Su Yufei nodded pitifully. Okay, you have to come home early. I'll wait for you in your room. Finally, the two could face each other. Zhomei resumed her persona as a strong career woman and asked Lin Fan, what do you want to drink? It's on me. A cup of plain tea, thank you. Oh, Mr. Lin, you don't drink alcohol? That's not the way a man should be. Alcohol makes people lose their senses. Tea doesn't. Lin Fan interlaced his fingers. That's why I like to drink tea. Do you have a problem with that? Zhomei shook her head and poured him a cup of tea. They chatted for a few minutes, mostly small talk. When the conversation turned to the project, both their gazes became serious, and their tone became heated. Mr. Lin, in terms of civil engineering, the Hanhai Group is no match for us. Therefore, we're determined to win this project. We absolutely must secure it. I can promise you here. If you let us take this project, White Heavy Industries can give up other projects in the second half of the year. How about it? Lin Fan took a sip of tea. Your financial report doesn't look too good recently, does it? Does White Heavy Industries really have the capacity to take on this project right now? As if the Hanhai Group is so much better. The news a while ago was all over the place, wasn't it? That was your group, wasn't it? Swords drawn, the two began to expose the weaknesses of their respective companies. At this rate, no matter how long they talked, they wouldn't reach a conclusion. Zhomei suddenly moved, getting closer to Lin Fan. Using a soft voice, she said, Mr. Lin, Are you really willing to watch your sister's company go bankrupt? How about you give up the project and I'll let you have a go with me once? How's that? Deliberately, she pressed her pale skin against Lin Fan's hand. Lin Fan remained unmoved, slowly sipping his tea. Seeing that there was no effect, Zhou cursed inwardly. I'm offering it to him, but he still doesn't want it. He's really putting on a show. Men love to act all high and mighty. She stopped pretending herself. Zhou reverted to her cold expression and cut straight to the point. What conditions do you have? Just say it. Chapter 64. Li Shang's illicit relationship with Mommy. Ms. Zhou, what I want might be beyond your means. Just name it. There's nothing Zhou can't accomplish. Even if you want the stars in the sky, I'll bring them back for you, Zhou said confidently. Since she put it that way, Lin Fan didn't beat around the bush. He stated that if the Han Hai Group was to withdraw from the project, White Heavy Industries had to agree to two conditions. First, help them acquire Spirit Foreign Trade Company. Second, the Han Hai Group would share the profits of the project in the later stages by acquiring shares. Zhou immediately said it was impossible. The later stage profits of this project weren't a matter of hundreds of millions, but tens of billions. The reason both sides were interested in this project was exactly because of its later stage profits. It was impossible for Han Hai Group to try and get a piece of the pie. It's not like you'll be giving us money for nothing. The Han Hai Group has luxury brands like Yalan Pavilion, which can increase the popularity of the tourist city. It would be a win-win situation for both of us. Our company has its own arrangements for commodity bidding. Zhou still didn't budge. Besides, Spirit Foreign Trade Company was her sister's company. She could never help an outsider seize control of it. As a result, the negotiations fell apart. Neither condition could be met. Lin Fan had anticipated the rejection. He calmly placed his cup down. Ms. Zhou, it's all right. Some things can't be decided right away. When you think it's possible, feel free to call me. I've finished my tea, so I won't bother you any longer. Lin Fan left. Zhou was a mix of anger and frustration. She downed the cocktail in her glass in one gulp. Today's game was a loss for her. This man was more troublesome than she had imagined, but troublesome didn't mean he couldn't be dealt with. Even the strongest people had their weaknesses. Zhou suddenly thought of Su Yufei. A plan to target Lin Fan began to take shape in her mind. On the other side, Lin Fan was driving back to his villa. His phone rang. After seeing the content of the message, he changed direction towards another location. A few minutes later, at an unknown restaurant, Lin Fan met Lu Jiajia. She was waving at him with a big smile on her face. You came so fast, Mr. Lin. You said you had something important to talk to me about, so I came. Lu Jiajia said yes, there was indeed something urgent. But we need to talk somewhere else. There are too many ears here. We don't want to be overheard. As she spoke, she reached out to take Lin Fan's hand. But Lin Fan didn't move. Looking her in the eye, he said, I think this place is fine. The last time you said you wanted to go somewhere else, you changed the location to a hotel. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Her scheme exposed, Lu Jiajia didn't try to hide it anymore. She directly said, Mr. Lin, do you want to know who the mysterious person who took Li Shang was? Who is it? Do you want to know? Let's go somewhere else and have a good, in-depth chat. Lu Jiajia emphasized the words, in-depth chat. It was hard not to misunderstand. Lin Fan was genuinely getting annoyed. Why did this woman always like to play these kinds of riddles? She was simply asking for a beating. Come on, it's been a while since we last had an exchange. Lu Jiajia pulled him out of the restaurant and eventually arrived at the familiar Exinen Hotel. What followed was an exchange session. This time, Lu Jiajia was even more proactive, maximizing her attacking speed and posture. Anyone else would have been unable to withstand it. Only Lin Fan was able to withstand such an onslaught and still handle it with ease. When they finally slowed down, Lin Fan asked her, All right, you can tell me now. Who was the mysterious person you were talking about? Lu Jiajia, still catching her breath, said, Actually, we all know her. The person who bailed Li Shang out was the chairman of Spirit Foreign Trade Company, Mommy. The situation was truly unexpected. Lin Fan couldn't think of what Mommy's motive for rescuing Li Shang could be. It couldn't be that she thought he was young and had a good body. That's right, it was likely to target them. Mommy strongly opposed the Han Hai Group's acquisition plan. Because of that, she had even taken back Eric's shares and held a meeting forbidding all shareholders from selling large amounts of shares, preventing the Han Hai Group from fulfilling the acquisition conditions. That made sense. Ms. Lu, your information is valuable. Do you have any other valuable leads? Lu Jiajia thought for a while and mentioned one more thing. The Huachuang Group's China branch was almost ready and would soon be operational. I know about that. Lin Fan was quite familiar with Miss Luna and had heard her talk about it. The Huachuang Group saw the huge market in China and decided to open a branch in China. They would bring in new products and brands to serve the Chinese people. Miss Luna, as the successor of the Huachuang Group, had been involved in the planning of the branch from the very beginning. It was about to be completed recently, so she was incredibly busy. There's no need to specifically mention this. The Huachuang Group and our Hanhai Group are mutually supportive. Hopefully so. Lu Jiejia had a bad feeling. Mr. Lin, I have to say something. The Huachuang Group's products are quite similar to yours. When they enter the Chinese market, they will definitely take away some of your market share. Be careful when you deal with them. There are no eternal friends in this world, only eternal interests. Lin Fan understood. He didn't say much about the rest. It's late. I still have work to do. Let's end things here tonight. Mr. Lin, are you done? Actually, I don't feel anything yet. Lu Jiejia suddenly provoked him. He stopped putting on his clothes. Lin Fan lifted Lu Jiejia's chin. Woman, you're playing with fire. Be careful not to get burned. No, I believe you, Mr. Lin. You can't beat me. That sentence triggered the second half of the game. When it was dawn, Lin Fan finally put on his clothes and opened the door. Before leaving, Lu Jiejia kissed his lips. Mr. Lin, let's have a chat again next time if there's a chance. Lin Fan responded with a hum, then turned and left. At this time, inside the villa, Yufei got out of bed, rubbing her eyes. The bed beside her still showed no sign of anyone having slept there. Lin Fan hadn't come back. She had waited the whole night, in Lin Fan's room. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Just as Yufei was getting excited, the voice that came was the butler's deep voice. Miss Su, there's a phone call for you. A call? Okay, I'll be right there. Yufei went to the living room and picked up the phone. The familiar yet annoying voice on the other end of the line made Yufei speechless. Why are you still calling? Do you know that you have no place in my heart anymore, Li Shang? Yufei, don't be so narcissistic. Li Shang was unusually bold, directly calling Yufei by her name. I have no desire to be entangled with you anymore. Please don't hold on to any fantasies. Hey, who is holding on to fantasies here? Li Shang didn't want to bring up the past. He called to warn her, I'm in love with someone else now. A woman who is 100 times more beautiful and has a better figure than you. Chapter 65. Mommy's Secret Plot. After saying that, he hung up the phone harshly. Yufei was incredulous. She couldn't understand what was wrong with Li Shang. Why was he calling just to say those things? She cursed inwardly, crazy. At the same time, at a rooftop swimming pool in Xianan City, Li Shang turned off his phone screen. The arrogance on his face disappeared, quickly turning into a submissive and affectionate expression. He said to Mommy, who was on a beach chair, Darling, did I do well? I told you, I don't have anything to do with that Yufei anymore. Including that Lu Jiejia. I was just playing around with her. Only you. He lifted up Mommy's chubby hand. Are my true love. Darling, you were able to rescue me. I'm yours for life. As he spoke, he kissed her hand. Mommy's lips curled up, her small eyes, hidden behind sunglasses, scrutinizing the man before her. Compared to the last time she had seen him, Li Shang was much thinner. His legs were faintly trembling as he squatted on the ground. Get up. Mommy smiled faintly. Help me apply some sunscreen. Mommy turned her plump body and handed a bottle of sunscreen to Li Shang. Seeing the body that was several times larger than his, Li Shang couldn't bring himself to do it. He mumbled to himself, this fat old woman, she's rich, but she always wants me to do this and that, like I'm her servant. Geez, even the strongest man couldn't stand her bossing him around. Hey, apply it. What are you spacing out for? Li Shang was helpless. He suppressed his disgust and evenly applied sunscreen on Mommy's back. As he was applying the sunscreen, Mommy kept nagging at him. Li Shang, I was able to rescue you, and I can send you back in, so don't play any tricks on me. I'm not some love-struck woman like Yufei. If you can't create value for me, you'll be like those other men who want money, and I will throw you into the trash can without a second thought. You hear me? Yes. Louder. Are your vocal cords broken? Li Shang was startled and had no choice but to answer loudly. I hear you, darling. I'll do whatever you ask me to. All right then, come and rub my feet. Huh? Rub your feet in the pool? Mommy got excited. I'm in a good mood this morning, so you have the opportunity. Don't just stand there. Half an hour later, Li Shang collapsed on the ground. He couldn't get up. Mommy was as unaffected as ever. She said to him, "Young man, why do you give up so easily? Never mind, I have a task for you." Li Shang, "What is it, darling?" "The Hanhai Group is trying to acquire our company. I want you to think of a way to muddy the waters of the Hanhai Group. That way, they won't have the energy to keep an eye on Spirit Foreign Trade Company." It sounded easy, but it was difficult to do. The last time there was such a big scandal, the Hanhai Group was able to get through it. It would be more difficult than ascending to the heavens to try to muddy the waters again. Creating a scandal was definitely not going to work. Was there another way? Li Shang couldn't think of anything for the moment. "Darling, give me some time. I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer." How much time was there? Mommy taught him that if scandals don't work, he could try reporting their company for tax evasion or target people around him. Hearing that, Li Shang suddenly had an idea. Targeting people around Lin Fan might be a feasible plan. For example, he could kidnap someone close to him and then send a threatening letter to their company, warning him that if he didn't withdraw from the acquisition process, they would kill the hostage. That way, Lin Fan would definitely have no choice but to agree. It was a great idea. Mommy gave him a slap on the face. "Are you stupid? If you did that, it would directly point a Spirit Foreign Trade Company. You want me to go down with you? The method is good, but you need to think differently." Li Shang scratched his head. So, he would disguise himself as someone from the industry and ask Lin Fan to resign. As long as he resigned, the Hanhai Group would also stop the acquisition process. Plus, he could get revenge on Lin Fan. He had hated him for a long time. Mommy didn't directly deny this plan. From what she knew, the Hanhai Group's board of directors was divided on the acquisition of the Spirit Foreign Trade Company. Some of them didn't agree. If it wasn't for Lin Fan's insistence, the acquisition might not have happened. Thinking about it, the plan was actually feasible. But who should they kidnap? "Darling, I already have a choice. The person Lin Fan can't bear to part with the most is Su Yufei. If we kidnap her, I don't believe he won't get flustered. They've been in love for 10 years. Mommy thought that it wouldn't work. No, there was someone else that was more suitable. It was old Lin, Lin Fan's father. Almost everyone in Exine City knew that his father and son had a very good relationship. Lin Fan was also extremely filial to his father, taking care of all aspects of his life. If they kidnapped him, Lin Fan would surely fall into their trap. Li Shang thought about it, and still felt that Su Yufei was a better choice. Mommy was unhappy with his idea. "Are you going to listen to me, or to you? Are you afraid of not getting close to that Su Yufei? You want to take advantage of this chance to meet with her privately? Don't even think about it." "No, I'm acting according to the plan that is most likely to control Lin Fan. You have to believe me, darling." Mommy waved her hand and told him that he didn't need to say anything anymore. Old Lin would be the one to be kidnapped. Li Shang was to take care of everything. She would send a few people to help him. If it was successful, there would be a reward of 8.88 million. However, if he failed, she was sure he knew what the consequences would be. Li Shang knew that if things were to be exposed, he would have to take the blame. At that point, he wouldn't just be sent in for a few years. He would probably have to stay there for the rest of his life. As the saying goes, wealth comes from taking risks. If he could get through this, he would rise to the top again. Why not take a gamble? The two discussed all the details of their plan and agreed to take action at midnight tonight. After the conversation, Li Shang was dismissed. Mommy called her darling son Eric. "Are you up, baby? Don't be angry. Mommy took back your shares to protect you. There are a lot of bad women out there lately. I'm afraid that you'll lose your money by getting tricked. Tell Mommy, who do you like? I'll bring her back for you as your wife." Eric asked, "Really? Never mind. The woman I like doesn't like me back, and I can't afford to offend the people behind her." That response was exactly what Mommy wanted to hear. She promised Eric that she would make that Su Yufei come to his room and beg him, and that he could do whatever he wanted with her at that time. Mommy didn't say how she would do it, but after being silent for a while, Eric decided to believe her. "Mommy, I believe you. I hope to hear good news from you." Okay, wait for my good news." After hanging up the phone, Mommy was in a great mood. With this plan, the Hanhai Group would not have an easy time, and there was a good chance that it would experience turbulence. When she finally got her hands on Lin Fan, she would have a good taste of him. Ha ha ha. Chapter 66. An incapable father and a frail mother. That night, Lin Fan and Su Yufei came to the old house in the countryside, preparing to visit Lin Fan's father. Originally, Lin Fan didn't want Su Yufei to come, but she insisted that she wanted to apologize to his father. What happened at the wedding ceremony was indeed her fault. So, the two of them came to an agreement. She would listen to him later and would not randomly open her mouth. Su Yufei nodded vigorously. Okay, I'll definitely listen to you. I'll do whatever you say. As she spoke, she took Lin Fan's arm. As the Lamborghini stopped by a pond in the countryside, Su Yufei and Lin Fan, carrying the gifts they had prepared, arrived at the front of the old house. Lin Fan knocked on the door and called, "Dad, it's me. I'm here." "Is that Lin Fan?" "Wait a moment, I'll open the door." After opening the door, Lin Fan's father was smiling, but when he saw that Su Yufei was also there, his face immediately turned as dark as a pig's liver. You still dare to come here, you woman?" "Dad, it was my fault. I came here today to apologize." Lin Fan's father was almost livid. "Who is your father? I don't have a daughter-in-law as immoral as you. Don't you ever step foot in my house." "And Lin Fan, how could you forgive this woman?" The situation was quite warm until Su Yufei appeared. She looked helplessly at Lin Fan, hoping that he would step up to persuade his father. There was no need for a family to be so unpleasant. Lin Fan simply said, "I haven't forgiven Su Yufei, and I've already divorced her. Are you happy now, Dad?" "Divorced?" Lin Fan's father felt a bit better. But still, he wouldn't let Su Yufei enter this house. Not even as a friend. In the end, he was just being stubborn. Lin Fan had seen how stubborn his father was before. Without saying much, Lin Fan took Su Yufei's hand and walked straight into the old house. Lin Fan's father angrily followed after them. "You deadbeat. Are you trying to anger me to death? Your mother in heaven definitely won't forgive you." Later, inside the room, everyone was silent, especially Lin Fan's father. He drank cup after cup of tea, yet he was still so angry that his face turned red. He couldn't understand what was so good about Su Yufei. His son was so obsessed with her that he wouldn't let her go even after the divorce. Besides, when he came back home, he didn't say anything and didn't have any manners. Cough, cough, you don't usually come. Now that you've finally come, you're pulling a long face. Lin Fan, are you looking down on this old man now? Dad, that's just what you think. Lin Fan's father slammed his hand on the table. Is this your attitude? I raised you, and you're repaying me like this. If it wasn't for me, you, Lin Fan, would still be screwing screws in an electronics factory. Su Yufei wanted to retort, but Lin Fan raised his hand. He put down the gifts he had brought and slowly said, "Dad, do you know where these gifts come from? Aren't they bought from the mall? I don't want your stuff." Lin Fan continued, "Things need money to buy. Money needs to be earned. Then tell me, Dad, how much money have you brought home?" It's none of your business." Lin Fan's father turned his head and lit a cigarette, taking a big drag. The answer was, surprisingly, almost none. Since Lin Fan had been old enough to understand things, the family shop had always been failing. Lin Fan's father was unwilling to go work or do any farming. Every day, he would just live off that small profit. Not only was life not getting better, it was becoming harder and harder. His frail mother worked in an asbestos textile factory in order to maintain their livelihood and provide for their studies. You need to know that at that time, people didn't know much about the dangers of asbestos. Oftentimes, people would only find out about the horror when they got asbestosis in middle age. But it was too late. His mother's condition was already beyond saving. She died in the hospital. What had Lin Fan's father done? Nothing. He hadn't made any money, spent all day doing nothing, and wasn't even able to pay for his children's tuition. Later, Lin Fan had met a benefactor who helped him make money. Lin Fan's father changed overnight, becoming a famous entrepreneur, enjoying great prestige in the Exine and city circle. Who knew that he was just an incapable father who had watched his wife die and had left his children helpless? Tell me, am I lying? Lin Fan's father remained silent. The intense rise and fall of his chest proved that he was not calm. Then he said, "You don't understand. There are some things that people your age can't understand. I'm young, that doesn't mean I don't have eyes. In our eyes, you are just an incompetent and stubborn father. And, if it wasn't for you, my younger sister wouldn't have been sent away." When his younger sister was mentioned, Lin Fan's father looked up at him with disbelief. "You found your sister? Why didn't you tell me?" Lin Fan sneered and didn't answer. Knowing that he could no longer cover it up, Lin Fan's father sighed deeply, saying that everything that year was out of their control. They didn't have money, and they couldn't live without it. Without money, they couldn't provide for Lin Fan's studies. They had no choice but to give their young daughter to another family to raise. They didn't take money. That was his bottom line. "It was my fault that I didn't tell you the truth all these years. You can beat me or scold me. I won't stop you. Lin Fan stood up and told his father, you should apologize to Yuxuan. You have no idea what kind of life she had for 20 years. Where is she? I want to see her. Yuxuan doesn't want to see you. You need to atone for your incompetence for these past 20 years. After venting his emotions, Lin Fan put down the gifts and turned to leave. When he reached the door, he turned back to add, Mr. Lin, I don't think I'm a good man, but I won't let the woman I love get hurt. I've said too much tonight. Take care of yourself and stay safe. Leaving the old house, the two drove back to the city. On the road, Lin Fan's mood couldn't calm down for a long time. To tell the truth, he had never talked back to his father since he was young. Today was probably the first time. In everyone's eyes, he was a filial young man. But it wasn't until Yuxuan told him those things. Lin Fan couldn't help but say some of those things, and also because of Su Yufei. No matter what mistakes she made, only he could punish her. No one else could. Lin Fan was getting a bit annoyed by his father's attitude. Don't be angry, darling. I'll keep you company tonight. Su Yufei's voice was sweet, and she seemed to be in a good mood. Lin Fan didn't say anything and drove back to the villa. No sooner had the two of them left when the old house was visited by a new set of guests, and they were very aggressive. Why are you back? Lin Fan's father stood up and opened the door. He saw a few masked men. Who are you? Before he could finish his sentence, a black bag was placed over his head, and a cold sensation was felt on his neck. Lin Fan's father wanted to shout for help, but his mouth was covered. The mysterious men warned him, Mr. Lin, you'd better not attract other people. The knife I have in my hand doesn't have eyes. As he spoke, he was dragged onto a van. No one knew where they were taking him. Chapter 67. A sudden, threatening letter. At that moment, in a parking lot somewhere, Lin Fan and Su Yufei were kissing in the car. The woman sat on the man's lap, arms around his neck, using physical contact to satisfy her emotional needs and physical desires. The man was doing the same, his hands and feet exploring the woman's body. After a long time, Lin Fan regained his senses and took the initiative to push Su Yufei away. Okay, that's enough for tonight. I don't want you to be too satisfied. Again, Su Yufei's coquettish voice was almost unbearable for any man. The night is still young. Why don't we go wild a bit? As she spoke, she began to unbutton Lin Fan's shirt. Her hand was grabbed. Lin Fan stared at her. When you were kissing Zhou Mei, did you think of me? And yet you still want me to give it to you? You're dreaming. When I can't take it anymore, I'll come find you. The rest of the time, suck it up. Lin Fan wiped his mouth with a handkerchief. Do you need it? No. Su Yufei licked her lips, exuding a seductive aura. After fixing their clothes, the car started. On the way, Su Yufei was still not satisfied. She grabbed the handbrake and said, Honey, don't be mad. There's a reason why I kissed Zhou Mei. Do you want to know? Focusing on driving, Lin Fan said he didn't want to. Su Yufei smiled. You're just being stubborn. You're obviously enjoying it. Okay, I'll tell you what happened that day. After her explanation, Lin Fan's face changed. Zhou Mei was a lesbian? It was indeed beyond his imagination. So, you just naturally let her kiss you? Hey, I was forcibly kissed by her. Su Yufei said angrily, hitting Lin Fan's arm. I just wanted to help you. Help the Hanhai group get the project. Who knew that the other party was a lesbian? Not only did I not help with anything, I was forcibly kissed. I made a huge loss, okay? Lin Fan felt that while she had lost something, she hadn't done nothing. Being able to make connections with Zhou Mei was a good thing. I have a task for you. Go get close to Zhou Mei and try to gain her trust. Of course, don't actually sleep with her. Su Yufei was very happy. It was a task that Lin Fan had given her, proving that she was needed. Of course she would agree. Okay, what reward will you give me when it's done? What do you want? Jewelry, money, a position. I can give you anything. Su Yufei didn't want any of that. She manually shifted the gears to fifth. She whispered, I want you. When it's done, how about you give me just one time? Lin Fan didn't immediately agree. Instead, he added, if the Hanhai group can secure this project, I'll reward you one time. Really? Yeah, but before that, you need to pay some interest. The car suddenly stopped on the side of the bustling road, and indescribable sounds came from within. The next day, the Hanhai group headquarters received a letter addressed to Lin Fan. Secretary Chen Shuyi, with her long legs, came to the office and handed the letter to Lin Fan. Mr. Lin, you have a letter. A letter? In this day and age, few people wrote letters. Lin Fan, with some doubt, opened the envelope. But when he saw the contents, his expression immediately turned pale. Chen Shi asked, "Mr. Lin, what's wrong?" "It's nothing. You can go out first. I need to calm down." "Are you sure it's nothing? You look like you've broken out in a sweat." Chen Shuyi was very worried, not moving until she saw the contents of the letter in Lin Fan's hand. "Dear Mr. Lin Fan, president of the Hanhai Group, I'm writing to greet you. You may not know who I am? That's okay. All you need to know is that I have a conflict of interest with you. Today, I am here to talk to you about a deal. If you want your father to return safely to enjoy his old age, then please resign from all the shares of the group and sell all the shares. I will give you a week. If you do not follow the agreement, then your father will never be able to return." Attached was a photo of old Lin, tied up and with a terrified expression. Seeing the content of the letter, Chen Shuyi's jaw dropped. Just like what Lin Fan said, what time period was it that people were still sending letters? She also wanted to say, what time period was it that people were still kidnapping people with this type of plot? "Mr. Lin, don't panic. The AI technology is very advanced now. It's very likely that this is just a prank." At this time, Lin Fan was already making calls to confirm it. But no matter whether he dialed the old house's number or his father's phone number, no one answered. When he wanted to find someone to verify it, his phone rang. It was his father's phone number calling. "Hello," Lin Fan answered the phone. An electronic voice came from the other end. It seemed like the other party didn't want to reveal their identity. "Mr. Lin, long time no see. Who are you?" The electronic voice chuckled. "You don't need to worry about who we are. As long as you do as we ask, I guarantee your father will return home safe and sound." Lin Fan said, "How do I know you're telling the truth? I only have one request. Let me hear my father's voice." The other end became noisy, as if they were discussing something. Finally, the other party responded, "Okay, you can say a few words to your old man." The phone was placed to Lin Fan's father's ear. He shouted, "Xiao Fan, don't worry about me. The Hanhai Group needs you. You can never resign. And hurry and call the police." "Old man, who told you to say so much?" Lin Fan's father was cut off before he could finish speaking. The sounds of punches and kicks came from the other end. Lin Fan's father's wails echoed in his heart. It filled him with anger. "Stop it. Do you want to die?" Lin Fan roared into his phone. The other party continued to do as they pleased, not at all startled. They warned Lin Fan that if he dared to call the police, the deal would be off. At that point, what he would get back would be a cold corpse. The leader suddenly changed his mind. "I think a week is too long. I'll give you 3 days. After 3 days, I want you to hold a press conference and resign. And a bit of advice. We brothers are all outlaws. Don't think that we won't dare to lay a hand on your father." The phone was hung up. Inside the large office, there was a deathly silence. Secretary Chen Shuyi didn't dare to make a sound, because she saw that Mr. Lin was vigorously crumpling the letter, already on the verge of exploding. After a while, Lin Fan's emotions stabilized slightly. He began to instruct Chen Shuyi, "Miss Chen, I want you to keep this matter to yourself. Don't let anyone else in the group know about it. Do you understand?" "Yeah. Is there anything I can do?" Lin Fan asked her to go out first. He needed to calm down. Chen Shuyi slowly retreated, leaving Lin Fan alone. When no one was there, he opened the audio recording he had made earlier and sent it to 2 suspects. The first was Mommy. The second was White Heavy Industries' Zhou Mei. Chapter 68. Someone with Ulterior Motives. After the audio was sent, he immediately received a reply. First, there was Mommy's statement. She directly denied it. There was a lot of collaboration between Spirit Foreign Trade Company and Hanhai Group. If Mr. Lin resigned, it would have a big impact on the stock price. What would be the point of doing something that doesn't bring any profit to their company? It would be stupid. Besides, kidnapping was a crime. I'm only 53 years old this year. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. Mr. Lin, I promise you that I definitely didn't do it. Mommy said. Lin Fan didn't trust her. He asked, I heard you bailed out Li Shang. Don't you know that he is my enemy? When it came to that, Mommy denied it even more. She kept saying that it was a misunderstanding, that Li Shang was a bad person with a horrible record. What was the point of saving him? While that was what she said, Lin Fan still had his own doubts. Later, Zhou Mei called him as well. First, she expressed her condolences, and then she clarified that it wasn't her. We at White Heavy Industries, we would never stoop to doing such things. If we are going to compete, we'll compete fairly. Doing something like this is just what a petty person would do. Mr. Lin, I hope you can tell right from wrong. Lin Fan chatted with her for a few minutes, trying to find loopholes in her words. During that time, Zhou had repeatedly stated, there wasn't much interaction between White Heavy Industries and Han Hai Group, so there was no basis for any hatred. Another thing was, where did old Lin live? Probably not many people knew, and Zhou definitely didn't know. If she didn't know the location, how could she kidnap him? Lin Fan was thoughtful of that point. The previous night, they had gone to the old house and old Lin had been fine. So, the kidnapping had occurred between a few hours after they left and this morning. If they didn't know old Lin's location, it wouldn't have been so easy to do. He had never publicly talked about his past to prevent reporters from disturbing old Lin. Therefore, the location of the old house would never have been revealed. The kidnapper must be someone who was familiar with his past. Zhou opened her mouth again. Mr. Lin, I'm willing to help you. If you need anything, just tell me. That's not going to clear you of suspicion. I don't need to clear my suspicion, because I didn't do it. They had almost identical statements. Lin Fan didn't comment on it yet. After listening to both of their answers, he had a basic judgment. Of course, he wouldn't just sit around and wait. Lin Fan had a friend who worked in the audio business. Maybe he could decode the electronic voice to reveal the true voice of the person. Without delay, he immediately found that person's WeChat and sent the audio. At the same time, at a certain department in the Han Hai Group, Yufei was on the phone, working as a salesperson. Everyone thought that she couldn't do it. After all, she used to be a famous art director, making hundreds of thousands a year. But Yufei did it. And she did it excellently. She had even become the top salesperson of the month. The way other people looked at her had changed from disdain to admiration. The contemptuous whispers had become quieter and quieter, until they disappeared. Yufei, let's go eat together later. Sorry, sis. I have to work overtime today, so I can't go with you. Yufei continued to bury herself in work. There were fewer and fewer people in the office, but Yufei still stayed at her post. At that moment, her phone rang. A text message had been sent. Yufei wiped her hands and opened her phone. She saw the contents of the text message. Miss Yufei, I have some information I want to sell you. What price are you willing to pay? What do you mean? This is some kind of new scam text. No. I'm here to help you. You really like Lin Fan, don't you? If I tell you I have a way to make him unable to leave you, do you want it? Seeing this text message, Yufei straightened up. After thinking for a while, she replied, I don't want it. Yufei went back to work. But for some reason, she couldn't concentrate. From time to time, she would glance at her phone screen. A few minutes later, Yufei picked up her phone again and found that unknown contact. She sent, You tell me first. I'll see if it's suitable. The waiting process was very agonizing. When she saw her phone screen light up, she quickly opened it. Haha, I knew you'd agree, Miss Sue. It's a woman's sixth sense. I'll give you a method first. It's absolutely effective. Call him now and say this, Lin Fan, I know something is on your mind. Tell me about it. Hesitantly, Yufei called. Hello, what is it? Lin Fan, I know something is on your mind. Tell me about it. After a moment of silence, Lin Fan said, Thank you for your concern, but you just need to have a good relationship with Zhou. I'll take care of the rest. Yufei's eyes widened. What the other person said actually worked. Just one sentence had changed Lin Fan's attitude. After chatting for a few minutes, she became more certain of her thoughts. She refound the text message and tentatively sent a message. Is there any other way? The first method you said, it wasn't effective at all. Of course there is. The second method is a dinner made with love. Tonight, when he goes back, let him see you cooking in the kitchen. But I can't cook. It doesn't matter if you can't cook. According to my experience with many men, they can accept it, and even that the food is bad can be seen as one of your cute points. I'll try. Just try. If it works, I'll tell you about that thing. The other party didn't say what that thing was. The text messages ended there. Yufei had gradually gone from being hesitant to starting to believe it. That night, she specifically went to the market to buy a pile of ingredients. Following the instructions on the recipe, she started cooking. During that time, the cook wanted to help, but she was rejected. I want to try it myself. Yufei pushed the cook out of the kitchen. It was the cook's first time seeing this. In her impression, Yufei was very lazy, never doing housework or tidying up her room. What evil wind had blown through today that had made her cook? She didn't understand. She didn't understand at all. Oh, young master, you're back? It just so happened that Lin Fan entered the house. Yufei came out of the kitchen, just like a dutiful wife. You're back. Go wash your hands. It's time to eat. Lin Fan was a bit surprised. He looked at the cook, who shook her head, indicating that she didn't know either. A few minutes later, a large table of dishes appeared. It was dazzling. The two of them ate slowly. Su Yufei kept putting food on Lin Fan's plate. The taste of the dishes was very bland, but Lin Fan ate with relish. What? Did you feel like cooking today? He asked. Su Yufei smiled at him. You're working so hard at the company. It's my duty to cook for you. How's the taste? Looking at Su Yufei in front of him, Lin Fan seemed to see the sweet and adorable figure from his memories. He picked up a piece of braised pork ribs and put it in her bowl. Eat more. You've lost a lot of weight. I have something I want to tell you after dinner. Chapter 69. The deal collapsed. The next day, Su Yufei woke up early. She headed to White Heavy Industries. The night before, Lin Fan had told her many things, including the kidnapping of old Lin. When Lin Fan talked about this, she could see the anger and unease on his face. Although old Lin wasn't a good father, he was still Lin Fan's family. With a family member being kidnapped, it was imaginable how angry Lin Fan must be. Su Yufei didn't have any special skills. All she could do was help Lin Fan ease some of the pressure. She couldn't save old Lin, but making friends wasn't a problem for her. If she could convince Zhou Mei to give up the project, that would be the best. When she arrived at the front desk, Su Yufei took out her business card and said to the staff, "Hello, I have an appointment with Ms. Zhou Mei." The staff member looked at the business card and told Su Yufei to wait a moment. After making a phone call, the staff member said, "Sister Wang, there is a Ms. Su here to see the chairman." "Yes, it's Ms. Su Yufei." "Okay, I understand." After hanging up, the staff member stood up. "Ms. Su, please come with me." The two of them arrived at the office on the top floor. "Knock, knock, knock. Please come in." Su Yufei opened the door and entered the office. "You've arrived." "Yeah, Sister Mei, am I bothering you?" There was another woman in the room. She was being hugged by Zhou Mei, who was stroking her head. Su Yufei was seeing such a scene for the first time. She felt a bit uncomfortable. Zhou Mei saw her expression and gave a beautiful smile. "Wang Yani, you can go down first. This new friend seems a bit shy." "Okay, Chairman." After letting Wang Yani go, Zhou Mei crossed her legs. "Let me introduce you. This is my secretary, Wang Yani. She is very capable, is great at playing the guitar, and is even better at oral skills. I think you'll like her too." Su Yufei vaguely replied, "Maybe." Changing the topic, she said, "Sister Mei, I came here today to apologize to you." "Oh? I don't think you have anything to apologize for." Su Yufei said she did. The last time at the Queen Bar, she had said that she didn't have a boyfriend, but in some ways it was a lie. It was incorrect. The relationship between her and Lin Fan couldn't be described as a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. To be honest, Su Yufei herself wasn't sure. What kind of relationship did they have? "So, last time, I was in the wrong. I've let you down." "Interesting, you woman." Zhou Mei stood up and went to her side, lifting her chin. "Yufei, spend the night with me tonight, and I'll forgive you. Secretly telling you, I can also play the guitar." Su Yufei had goosebumps. She hurriedly backed up a few steps. The result was obvious. Zhou Mei was rejected. She didn't show any signs of being dejected, just gave a faint smile. "It's okay. I'm used to being rejected. Miss Su, if you came here specifically to apologize, you can go back now." After saying that, she asked Wang Yani to see her out. Since she couldn't help with anything, how could Su Yufei leave? She stood rooted in place. No matter how Wang Yani tried to persuade her, Su Yufei had no intention of leaving. "What do you want? I asked you to spend the night with me, but you wouldn't. Then do you want to leave or not? Su Yufei, we don't seem to have any grudges, right? Or are you some kind of blockhead who doesn't understand human speech?" Zhou Mei's tone was very impolite. What was the point of being polite with a person she couldn't make friends with? At that moment, Su Yufei seemed to have made up her mind. She quickly walked to the office desk, her hands on the table. "Sister Mei, I beg you, let Lin Fan's father go. I'll agree to whatever you ask." Hearing these words, Zhou Mei narrowed her eyes. She hadn't expected Su Yufei to say something like that. What was so good about that man? Why was the woman she liked so loyal to him? Seeing that, she lost interest in Su Yufei. Zhou Mei spread her hands. "I didn't do it. I'm also investigating who kidnapped Lin Fan's father. Go back and tell Lin Fan. White Heavy Industries doesn't need that project. Our financial reports are very good as it is. It's not necessary to resort to kidnapping to threaten him. Whether you believe it or not, that's all I have to say." After listening to Zhou Mei's answer, Su Yufei didn't know whether to believe it or not. She just nodded and said thank you. Then, with a sense of dejection and unease, she voluntarily walked out of the office. After she left, Zhomei rubbed her temples. Her expression didn't seem to be relaxed. Wang Yani, who hadn't spoken before, took her hand. I'll do it, Chairman. Zhomei closed her eyes and said to her, Yani, you're so good. Those beautiful women, they never tell the truth. Chairman, when you say that, you're including yourself. Haha. Yani, are you complimenting me or teasing me? Of course I'm complimenting you. Wang Yani lowered her head and kissed Zhomei. While that was what she said, Zhomei knew that she had lied as well. White Heavy Industries' financial reports weren't that good. They were even a bit bad. It was all thanks to the stock market turmoil some time ago. That day was like a roller coaster of emotions. She still remembered that email that didn't have a signature. It said that the Hanhai Group was about to have a meltdown. White Heavy Industries didn't usually interact much with the Hanhai Group. Plus, stock market rumors weren't very accurate. Zhomei didn't believe it at first. Even though White Heavy Industries had invested a lot of money in Hanhai Group's subsidiaries. A few days later, all the news outlets across the country were reporting Lin Fan scandals. She remembered the email. It wasn't fake. The Hanhai Group was really going to have a meltdown. With profit in sight, Zhomei didn't lose her mind. Instead, she kept looking at the K-line charts. When she saw that the Hanhai Group stocks were dropping rapidly, White Heavy Industries maintained a wait-and-see attitude. The Hanhai Group was originally a very outstanding company, so Zhomei predicted that they would start rising in the later stages. It was impossible for them to keep dropping. She hadn't expected that the stock price would plummet, and it immediately reached the daily limit. Zhomei, who didn't usually understand the stock market, was a bit panicked. Looking at the shares of the subsidiaries, almost all of them had reached their daily limits. At that time, she was very regretful. She wanted to beat herself up. Later, the stock price started to rise. Zhomei saw a glimmer of hope. However, the stock price started to fluctuate again. Knowing that she had to be decisive, Zhomei sold off the majority of the shares that White Heavy Industries owned at -6% to avoid any risks. This led to White Heavy Industries losing a lot of money. It would have been good if she could stop the bleeding in time. Who knew that? After the Hanhai Group stocks experienced one daily limit drop, they had actually turned a loss into a profit. Seeing the data, Zhomei was completely stunned. If she hadn't sold, how many hundreds of millions would she have made? That day, Zhomei's phone kept ringing. There were questions from the shareholders, misunderstandings from her parents, and doubts from her friends, especially from her mother. The first thing she said was, "Your dad was angered into the hospital by you." Chapter 70. Zhomei was going all in. Those few days, Zhomei didn't go to work. She used alcohol to numb herself. At the same time, she swore, "I will never enter the stock market again. If I ever go into stocks again, I will get humiliated by men." Whenever she thought about that time, Zhomei's head would ache. It was also because of her bad decisions that White Heavy Industries' cash flow decreased greatly, and she was plagued by bad luck. Either there were problems with projects that they had taken on before, or they just had no new projects to do. That was why the financial report was so bad. Wang Yani told her, "It wasn't your fault, Chairman. You work so hard for the company every day. Please don't beat yourself up." Yeah, let's not beat ourselves up." While that was what she said, the company's situation wasn't ideal. Regardless, they had to secure the Tourist City project. She couldn't compete with the Hanhai Group in terms of finances. Plus, the other party wasn't willing to give up. She could only consider the few conditions that Lin Fan had mentioned. The second condition was to accept that the other party would acquire shares and share some profits with them. First of all, the proportion of the shares wasn't clear. It could be high or low. If it was just a zero, something percentage, that wouldn't be too bad. But if Lin Fan wanted a percentage in the double digits, that would be impossible to agree to. You needed to know that the upfront investment of the tourist city was huge. It would be impossible to break even in a few years. With White Heavy Industries' current situation, it was hard to say if that would prolong the break-even cycle. It was possible that the company would go bankrupt while they were trying to break even. Then there was the other condition, which was for them to help with the acquisition of Spirit Foreign Trade Company. Helping with the acquisition wouldn't harm the company's interests. But Eric's mommy was her sister. Of course, she wasn't a biological sister. They just had the same father. She was the child of her father and his next wife. It wouldn't be right to help an outsider instead of her own family member. Thinking that way, both conditions were impossible to fulfill. There was only one way. That was to help find the kidnappers of old Lin and to do it before Lin Fan did. "Yanni, do you have a way?" Zhomei asked. "I'm just a little secretary, not a police officer. But I do think we can start with Lin Fan. He is the person involved, so he definitely has some leads that we don't know about. If we can get some leads from him and act secretly, it is possible for us to beat him to it." Zhomei thought that made a lot of sense. So, she called Lin Fan. "Mr. Lin, did your little pet go back? She came to see me earlier. Please be respectful, Ms. Zhou." Lin Fan asked her in return, "Are you also willing to be called a pet?" Zhomei laughed and told Lin Fan not to be so serious. Weren't women just pets that could be called on whenever a man wanted and left to the side when he didn't? Or was Mr. Lin a different kind of man? I don't think so. She was just mocking him. Zhomei didn't have any kind feelings towards any men, including her own father. Men would only keep on hurting her. Thinking of certain things in the past, she clenched her jaw tightly. "Oh, it seems that Ms. Zhou, you have some painful memories. It's none of your business." Zhomei collected her emotions and talked to Lin Fan about business. "Mr. Lin, what I said last time wasn't just empty words. White Heavy Industries is willing to help the Han Hai Group catch those kidnappers. We will definitely bring them to justice." Lin Fan's reply was, "No need. Thank you." The Han Hai Group was confident that it could catch the kidnappers. They didn't need White Heavy Industries to go to all that effort. If they couldn't even catch a small group of kidnappers, what face would the Han Hai Group have left in Xianan City? "Are you not going to consider it?" "I won't consider it." Inside the office, Zhomei was biting her fingernails, looking a bit flustered. If the Han Hai Group didn't need their help, then she wouldn't be able to get the project through that. In the end, she had returned to those two conditions again. No, she had to try to make it happen. "Mr. Lin, it's not clear over the phone. Let's meet up somewhere and talk properly." Lin Fan again said that it was not necessary. The last time someone had asked him out, they hadn't had good intentions. After a few brief remarks, the phone was hung up. Zhomei's face looked very uncomfortable. Being rejected again and again wasn't a good feeling at all. It felt like she was worthless. After thinking for a bit, she suddenly said, "Yanni, prepare the car for me." "Chairman, you want to?" "Yes. Since Lin Fan doesn't want my help, then I'll take the initiative to find him. If that's not enough, I'll sleep with him. I refuse to believe that these stinky men won't be swayed." Wang Yanni said, "Okay." At this time, in the Han Hai Group's president's office, Lin Fan had just put down the phone when he saw Secretary Chen Shui come in. "We have news, Mr. Lin." After projecting a few photos onto the big screen, Chen Shui explained, "There are few surveillance cameras near the old house. After a few visits, we found out there is one surveillance camera at the entrance of the village. So, we went to visit the owners of the house and we saw an abnormal scene. First, this photo. The van in the photo is very abnormal. They covered up the license plate at a location that was clearly not regulated by traffic control." Lin Fan looked and nodded. Covering the license plate was a clear sign that they were trying to hide something, which meant that the kidnappers were smart but had acted stupidly. He told the secretary to continue. "And in this one, the van's route is also not normal. They made a few rounds in the suburbs, going here and there, as if they wanted to confuse other people's judgment. Is there anything else?" Chen Shui said regretfully, "These are the only photos the surveillance camera managed to capture. It's like they disappeared after that." "I'm sorry, Mr. Lin." Lin Fan thanked them. Being able to do this was already great. He would give them a raise later. "Thank you, Mr. Lin." Chen Shui said they would continue to do their best to find Lin Fan's father. After saying that, Chen Shui left the office. At this time, Lin Fan thought of something and contacted his classmate in sound identification again. "Old classmate, do you have any results yet?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Lin. The other party's counter-surveillance awareness is very strong. They encrypted the audio. The police's specialized equipment is needed to break through that technology. I can't call the police. I suspect there is an insider in the Han Hai Group. If the news is leaked, my father could be killed. Then I'll do my best. If that doesn't work, I'll try a brute force breakthrough. By the way, Mr. Lin, do you have any sound samples? If you have samples, it will greatly increase the chance of breaking through it." Lin Fan did have recordings of a lot of people. Using a human wave tactic, he put out a notice, using the excuse of compiling it into a database and collected data from thousands of people. He also sent audio recordings from his phone, including ones from Eric and Li Sheng. This action took a whole day. By the time he was done, there was only one day left until the agreed time. Chapter 71. The third condition, go ahead and name it. A lot had happened in the intervening time. Lin Fan remembered it was in the afternoon when Su Yufei came to him, crying her eyes out. She said she was useless, that she couldn't handle anything right. He was just about to offer some words of comfort when she received a text message, and her expression instantly switched from sorrow to joy. Without even needing Lin Fan to comfort her, Su Yufei found an excuse and left the office. He still didn't know what the message had said. Later, Lu Jiejia also came to visit. She brought good news. The first trial verdict had come down, and Lu Wei was sentenced to 2 years in prison for crimes of rumor-mongering and defamation. He was also fined 2 million yuan. Lu Jiejia expressed her gratitude. Although Lu Wei was going to prison, because of Lin Fan's letter of leniency, his sentence wasn't severe. He could use the time inside to reform and try to become a better person. To show her thanks, this woman once again threw herself onto him, as if she were addicted. This is the office. I suggest you go back. It's all right. No one is around, and it's so stimulating. As she spoke, she began to undress, sitting on Lin Fan's lap and getting intimate with him. Afterward, she didn't forget to tease him. President Lin, you're not as strong as you usually are today. Haha, I'm getting stronger. You need to step up your game. She then blew him a kiss. Lin Fan didn't know what to think. He only knew that this woman, like Su Yufei, needed to be put in her place. Later, another strange coincidence occurred. While Lu Jiejia was getting dressed, there was a knock at the door. President Lin, Ms. Zhou Mei from White Industries is waiting outside. With a look, he signaled for Lu Jiejia to hide under the desk, then told the person to come in. Zhou Mei was dressed very sexily today. A black jacket over a white blouse, with the third and fourth buttons of the blouse on the verge of popping open for some reason, making anyone who saw her feel a surge of blood. Her lower half was clad in classic black stockings. Paired with high heels, Zhou Mei was the picture of a powerful, professional woman. President Lin, I hope you don't mind me visiting so suddenly. Not at all. It's our honor to have Ms. Zhou come to Han Hai Group. Come, let's go to the meeting room and have tea and talk. Zhou Mei smiled charmingly. Sorry for the interruption. Meanwhile, Lin Fan gestured for Lu Jiejia to get dressed and leave the office quickly. Who could have known that the woman would be so clumsy, making a little noise? When Zhou Mei heard it, she seemed to have discovered something interesting. Her eyes narrowed, and she joked, It seems your company needs to buy some rat poison, President Lin. There are even rats running around in broad daylight. Lin Fan's expression didn't change. The rats are Han Hai Group's rats too, so Ms. Zhou doesn't need to worry about it. Let's go to the meeting room and talk about other things. No need. Zhou Mei grabbed a chair and sat down in the office, beginning to survey her surroundings. I think it's quite nice here. Let's just talk here, President Lin. Helpless, Lin Fan could only stay in the office, sitting down and motioning to Lu Jiejia under the desk to stay quiet. He acted as if he didn't notice. Ms. Zhou, I know that you've come to Han Hai Group for the Tourism City project. Let's cut to the chase. You can say whatever you have in mind. Zhou Mei's stance hadn't changed. White Industries had to have the Tourism City project. As for the conditions Han Hai Group had offered, they couldn't fulfill them. However, Zhou Mei wasn't there to make unreasonable demands. She had leverage. First, she could help Han Hai Group find clues about Lin Fan's father and bring him back. Second, White Industries and Han Hai Group would become friends, with future investment and cash flow becoming even closer. Third, was a little more unique. Han Hai Group's previous conditions were too difficult to fulfill. So, President Lin, you can ask me for one thing. As long as it's within my power, or something I've promised, I'll agree. No empty words. Lin Fan considered a lot of things. The conditions she presented sounded generous, but they were actually just smoke and mirrors. First of all, what if White Industries was involved in his father's kidnapping in the first place? And secondly, the second condition was too vague and could easily be taken back. Things not written into a contract and merely said verbally couldn't be taken seriously. Looking at Lu Jiejia under the desk, naked, all of these factors made it impossible for Lin Fan to agree, so he had to find an excuse to make the other party back down. So, he proposed a third, outrageous condition. Ms. Zhou, I wonder if you remember what you said to me at Queen Bar. You mean, Zhou Mei recalled some past events she dared not look back on. That condition won't work. I was just joking back then. Zhou Mei's face began to flush red. It was clear that Lin Fan's condition made her unable to stay rational. Seeing her reaction, Lin Fan was already confident of his victory. He got up, telling Zhou Mei, Didn't you just say you would agree to anything you had said or promised? How can you not fulfill such a small request? I'm clearly a lesbian. You know that? Zhou Mei's eyes were filled with anger. but the blush on her cheeks made her look both ashamed and furious. Lin Fan loosened his tie, indicating he didn't care. Business was that cruel. To gain something, one had to pay a price. If Ms. Zhou couldn't accept that, it was fine. She could just go down the elevator, and Han Hai Group had a driver who could take her home. Under the desk, Lu Jiajia applauded internally. Great. As expected of President Lin, he easily manipulated that woman. What was Zhou Mei's intention? She was hesitating, unable to speak. She wanted the project, but she couldn't just offer herself, especially to a man. At that moment, there was a voice from outside. It was his secretary, Wang Yani. President Lin, I'm Ms. Zhou's secretary, Wang Yani. May I come in? Yes, please come in. After entering, Zhou Mei whispered to her, What are you doing here? I told you to wait outside for me. Oh dear, chairwoman, you usually finish your negotiations in minutes, but seeing that you haven't come out, I knew you were in trouble. Zhou Mei's expression eased slightly. You understand me well. Let me tell you, the condition Lin Fan proposed? Wang Yani nodded. She immediately offered a solution. It's simple. Chairwoman, if you don't want to do it, let me go instead. As soon as she said this, Zhou Mei was stunned. Wouldn't that be like her wife sleeping with another man? No, no way. She had to find another solution. The two of them whispered for a few minutes, and Lin Fan coughed. Ms. Zhou, have you made up your mind? This is not a place for you to whisper. In a moment of panic, Zhou Mei shouted loudly, Fine, I'll do it. It's just one night with you. Chapter 72. Lin Fan, you're shameless. Zhou Mei's voice echoed throughout the office, continuously impacting Lin Fan's and Lu Jiajia's nerves. Especially Lu Jiajia's. She didn't expect that the condition President Lin discussed with this woman was sleeping with him. That was a big leap, wasn't it? Lin Fan maintained a calm exterior, but he was thinking about countermeasures on the inside. It seemed he had to push her further. Come in then. Lin Fan stood at the entrance to the meeting room, making a gesture for her to enter. Zhou Mei hadn't expected Lin Fan to mean right now. Shouldn't this kind of thing happen in the evening? And this was an office. It was a bit inappropriate to do those things here. Thinking that her roundabout tactics hadn't worked, she turned to her secretary, Wang Yani, wanting her to come up with an idea. I agree. Wang Yani's response was unexpected. Why did you agree? My dear. Wang Yani whispered something in her ear, and as she did, Zhou Mei's expression changed from confusion to determination, murmuring, so that's how it is. After their whispered conversation ended, Zhou Mei regained her confidence. She actually got up and walked into the meeting room. Looking at the expressionless female secretary, Lin Fan couldn't help but recall some online discussions. Some people had heard that White Industries had grown from a small company, and 50% of that success came from their secretary named Wang Yani. Initially, Lin Fan had ignored it. But today he had gained new perspective. How interesting. The two went into the meeting room, and once the door was closed, no one knew what was happening inside. Taking advantage of this time, Lu Jiajia quickly came out. She first got dressed, and then instead of leaving, stood outside the door, eavesdropping. Inside the room. Why did you come in too? Zhou Mei was slightly at a loss as she watched Wang Yani enter. Was she going to have a buy one get one free deal? Wang Yani said that she was here to assist. If President Lin didn't have enough energy, she could also help. Lin Fan understood now. The other side had figured out his plans and wanted to compete against him. Lin Fan wasn't afraid of this kind of thing. Taking off his shirt, Lin Fan revealed his toned muscles beneath his dress shirt, especially his chest muscles which were particularly prominent. For most women, the sight alone would cause nosebleeds. Zhou Mei, being a lesbian, didn't flinch. His physique was top-notch among men, and Zhou Mei couldn't help but look again and again. Lin Fan glanced at her. Ms. Zhou, your time is precious. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get it over with. After saying this, he had already taken off his shirt, revealing his broad shoulders. Seeing this, Wang Yani exclaimed, President Lin, it seems you like to work out. This physique couldn't have been achieved in less than 7 or 8 years. Lin Fan continued to undress while speaking. Working out is a lifelong pursuit. A man needs a good physique, otherwise how can he win the affections of the ladies? Ms. Zhou, are you regretting it? The strategy was to keep attacking. Zhou Mei must have a bottom line. He believed she didn't truly want to do this. As long as he touched her bottom line, he would win. I'm not regretting it. President Lin, it seems you're serious, then I'll go along with it. After exchanging a look with Wang Yani, Zhou Mei took off her jacket. Her body was revealed, showcasing an S-shaped curve. In short, where she needed to be curvy she was, and where she needed to be slim, she was. Next, Jomei placed her hands before the buttons of her blouse, her hands trembling slightly, but she undid them one by one. At the third and fourth buttons. Unbuttoning these two buttons might make her fair skin pop out. But Jomei stopped her hands. Lin Fan knew that he had one and said, "Ms. Zhou, it seems that you still don't want to pay the price. It's okay. Today's matter I can pretend it didn't happen." Before he could finish, Wang Yani raised her hand and said, "President Lin, the chairwoman said she wants you to unbutton them." Looking at Zhou Mei's expression, she clearly didn't mean that. However, she could only nod her head. But this nod of the head was filled with unwillingness and shame. After a moment of silence, Lin Fan moved. He came before Zhou Mei, grasped the buttons in his hands, and carefully unbuttoned them. When the fourth button was undone, Lin Fan saw a shocking scene. He didn't look long, continuing to unbutton them. Throughout the process, Zhou Mei's face was completely flushed. She didn't dare to move, and could only stare blankly at Lin Fan's handsome and serious face. After removing the buttons, Zhou Mei covered herself with her hand. She said shyly, "Is that okay? What I said, I meant. I won't deceive you." That was how it was, Lin Fan thought. He couldn't continue this way. If he took a few more steps, the two of them would probably do something that they would regret. He had to find a way to end this confrontation. "Ms. Zhou, now it's my turn." Lin Fan directly launched his ultimate move, wrapping his arms around Zhou Mei's waist and picking her up. "This is the interest you need to pay." Without saying another word, he kissed her fiery red lips. This move shocked everyone. Wang Yani never expected that Lin Fan would really do it. He even picked her up and kissed her. Zhou Mei's eyes widened, and she screamed internally, "Lin Fan, you dare? You will pay the price for your shameless actions." Despite struggling, she was still firmly held in Lin Fan's strong arms. Slowly, she lost her strength. Surprisingly, she stopped struggling. Seeing this scene, Wang Yani knew that they had lost, a complete loss. She didn't know how much time had passed. Zhou Mei opened her eyes and found that she was lying on the sofa, and Lin Fan had already put his clothes back on and was standing by the window, smoking. "You're awake? What happened to me?" Wang Yani told her, "Chairwoman, you passed out due to lack of oxygen." At this, she recalled the scene of being forcefully kissed, and Zhou Mei's face flushed with anger. "Lin Fan, I will never forgive you in my life." Taking a puff of his cigarette, Lin Fan shook his head. He indicated that she didn't need to forgive him and could hate him for as long as she wanted. Besides, he hadn't done anything wrong. He had just collected some interest for Su Yufei being forcibly kissed by Zhou Mei. Now, they were even. Zhou Mei could not refute this explanation. She could only leave with these words, "I won't give up. I'm determined to get this project. Yani, let's go." With Wang Yani, the two of them left Lin Fan's office. Lin Fan said indifferently, "Don't bother to see me out." Later, Lu Jiejia chased after him, asking, "President Lin, you have it good. So many women around you. I'm so jealous." "Don't tease me, hurry back." "I'm leaving then." At the main entrance, Lu Jiejia added, "Remember to call me next time you have good times like these." Back to the present, after Lin Fan sent the recording data to his old classmate, Zhou Mei's secretary, Wang Yani, sent a brief message. She said that Zhou Mei had come around. She would help Lin Fan find his father first, free of charge, to prove the strength of White Industries. As for the third condition, there was still room for discussion. He replied, "Okay, I'll wait for good news." Chapter 73, The Kidnapper's Identity. In the blink of an eye, it was the last day that the kidnappers had agreed upon. That day, Su Yufei took a leave of absence from work. She hailed a taxi and hurried to a certain location. In the taxi, Su Yufei repeatedly looked at the messages on her phone, her eyebrows showing both excitement and anxiety. "Miss Su Yufei, if I'm not mistaken, President Lin's father was recently kidnapped, and he must be extremely anxious, at a loss for what to do." "How do you know?" "How I know isn't important. What is important is your attitude. How much money do you want? I'll pay you." "Not much, 100,000 yuan. Transfer 100,000 to this account, and I can tell you the inside information. Trust me. This is your best chance to get close to Lin Fan." "Okay, I'll give you the money." "Money given. Now can you tell me the information?" "Okay. Lin Fan's father is in room 520 of the Exinen Hotel." After that, there were no more text message records. Turning off her phone, Su Yufei didn't doubt the truth of the text message. Or rather, there was no need to doubt it. Knowing about the kidnapping incident meant they wouldn't be lying. Besides, the other party wasn't sharing the information for free, They had asked for 100,000 yuan. All signs pointed to the fact that the other party was probably an insider who didn't want to expose their identity. Therefore, they were selling the information for money. Having thought of many things, Yufei felt that the facts were as such, and the hotel was a common location where kidnappers hid people in TV dramas. Without telling Lin Fan, wanting to surprise him, Yufei came to the Exinen hotel alone, without any precautions. To test the situation, please book room 519 for me. ID, okay, the room is booked. Here is your room card. She took the elevator, pressing the 5th floor button. When she got to the 5th floor, Yufei saw several men dressed in suits and with menacing expressions coming out of room 520. They were coming in a threatening manner and brushed past her. Yufei's heart was thumping wildly. Their eyes didn't look like ordinary people. They looked like assassins. She quickly ran into room 519. That's right, the news is real. Lin's dad is in room 520. I need to tell Lin Fan quickly. Beep beep beep, click. The phone call she was about to make was interrupted by a knock on the door. Yufei looked at the door, her eyes filled with fear. She covered her mouth, afraid to make a sound. After a while, the knocking on the door gradually stopped. Yufei moved her body and looked through the small peephole. There was no one there, so it seemed the person had left. But just then, a bloodshot eye suddenly appeared in the peephole. Ah! Yufei was so scared that she kept backing up. I'm sorry, is anyone there? I'm here to change the bedsheets. As they spoke closer to the peephole, Yufei saw the full face of the person. It was indeed a middle-aged woman holding a bedsheet. She had just scared herself. Yufei opened the door. Oh, I thought, come in then. Then we'll come in. It wasn't the voice of the auntie, but the suit-clad men from before. Help! A towel covered Yufei's mouth, and in a few seconds her entire body became drowsy, until she lost consciousness. The men carried Yufei to room 520. The suit-clad man leading them handed a few banknotes to the auntie and told her not to say anything, forget about what happened, and just focus on making the bed. The auntie stuffed the banknotes into her pocket and nodded her head forcefully. I won't say anything, big brothers. You won't have the chance to say anything anyway. The same man, with the same hair, covered the auntie's mouth and dragged her into room 519, closing the door again. At least until they were done, the auntie wouldn't be able to expose them. Yufei was placed on the bed in room 520, and the black-clad men excused themselves. Sir, the person has been brought. We will be on guard outside. Don't disturb your fun. Well done, the money won't be less. Eric held up his fingers. The door to 520 slammed shut. At the same time, in the White Industries building of Exinen City, Zhomei looked at the information Wang Yani handed to her, her brows furrowed. There aren't any errors in the information? No. I investigated the companies that might be involved in the kidnapping, and finally narrowed it down to these last two. Something doesn't feel right. Zhomei saw the name of the Sprite Foreign Trade Company on the information, and her first reaction was disbelief. The Sprite Foreign Trade Company was her older sister's company. If she was the kidnapper, then White Industries' rejection of Han Hai Group's conditions would mean they were helping the villain. She had been thinking about her older sister all this time. Who knew? Sprite Foreign Trade Company didn't see White Industries as family. What about the next one? Zhomei asked. Wang Yani explained that the China headquarters of the Huachuang Group had a conflict of interest with Han Hai Group, even though they seemed to be friends with their frequent meetings. But when it came to the interests, there were no friends. Huachuang Group and Han Hai Group had similar products and were competitors. Besides, Wang Yani noticed the public opinion that had caused such a stir last time, saying that Lin Fan was a rapist. Huachuang Group had also been involved in that. Zhomei touched her chin, recalling the mysterious email. Could it have been sent by the Huachuang Group? Regardless, one of these two companies was definitely the one that hired the kidnappers. Yani, which one do you think has the higher probability? Well, I'm more inclined to say it's the Sprite Foreign Trade Company. The reason is simple. Although Huachuang Group does underhand things, they still maintain a front of working together with Han Hai Group on the surface. The Sprite Foreign Trade Company is different. It's not very friendly with Han Hai Group. Wang Yani pointed to a certain part of the information and said, I've researched it. The heir of the Sprite Foreign Trade Company, Eric, seems to have some sort of issue with Lin Fan. Doing all of this could be their goal, either to force Han Hai Group to stop the acquisition or for something else. Her logic made sense, and Zhomei felt she was probably right. She immediately picked up her phone and dialed her mother's number. Hello, sis. It's you, my dear little sister. What's the occasion today that you're actually calling me? Jomei replied, I've been busy recently. I haven't had the opportunity to call you, sis. How about this? Do you have some time to meet up? Dad misses you a lot. By the way, bring Eric too. At first, her mother was all smiles, but when she mentioned Eric's name, she immediately tried to cover something up with a laugh. That kid, Eric, has been traveling recently. It'll just be the two of us. Let's set a time. Jomei made some moves. Then let's meet now. I'll book a place. Okay. Surprisingly, her mother didn't refuse, saying, Today is good. It's been a long time since the two sisters met. We should have a good chat. See you in a while, sis. Okay. After hanging up, Jomei felt a little confused. If my sister was the kidnapper, why would she dare come out with me? It's a bit illogical. Wang Yani thought for a moment. Her eyes lit up. Chairwoman, I have another theory. Chapter 74. Lin Fan, hurry and save me. Wang Yani had found the blind spot. The other party's verbal cooperation was so easygoing. It meant they weren't the actual perpetrator. Thinking back to the change in her attitude when she heard Eric's name, it meant Eric definitely had a problem. That being said, they had no evidence. After much deliberation, Jomei decided to hand over the information they had gathered to the company's investigators. She told them to focus on the Sprite Foreign Trade Company. After finishing this, the two continued with their work. Meanwhile, in the Han Hai Group's conference room, many members of the board of directors gathered here, their faces grave. Lin Fan had just announced that he would be holding a press conference tomorrow, where the main topic would be his resignation. At first, everyone shouted that it was impossible. It was just a small-time kidnapper. With all of Han Hai Group's manpower, they wouldn't believe they couldn't take care of it. Yes, we can handle it, but someone doesn't want to see that, right? Lin Fan's sharp gaze swept across the crowd, as if his words held a hidden meaning. Later, a few people boldly denied it. Apart from them, most people remained silent. It wasn't that they didn't dare speak, but Lin Fan's expression was very unpleasant, and no one wanted to touch a nerve. Lin Fan observed everyone's expressions. He wanted to find the traitor among them. From the hot search incident after the wedding, to the fake Su Yufei's public opinion bomb, and finally the kidnapping of his father. No internal mole? Who would believe that? Uncle Su, what are your thoughts? Lin Fan suddenly called out. The man named Uncle Su wiped his sweat. He stood up and said, President Lin, I'm an old friend of your father. My character over the past 10 years is clear for all to see. It's absolutely impossible for me to betray Han Hai Group. I can swear. His raised hand was pressed down by Lin Fan. You can sit down. The next person in line was Uncle Chun, who visibly stiffened. His expression was innocent, and he shook his head. President Lin, that's even more impossible for me. As the group's general manager, I have a lot of shares. Selling the group would be like digging my own grave, wouldn't it? Lin Fan had a different opinion. He pointed out that Uncle Chun used to be one of the core employees of the Huachuang Group. There was definitely a motive. Uncle Chun wanted to explain. I've been wronged, President Lin. It's okay, you can sit down too. After that, Lin Fan interrogated all the employees of the board of directors, and he had an idea of what was happening. For this, he made a decision. At tomorrow's press conference, we'll play something exciting. Every 5 minutes, I will randomly dismiss one member of the board of directors. That person, if you don't want to be fired, you better confess quickly. These words shocked everyone, and many felt their hearts tremble with fear. They were worried about being fired. Some began to look around, trying to find the traitor. Once a decision was made, it wouldn't be changed. Lin Fan announced the end of the meeting with his hands behind his back. With various thoughts, everyone slowly left the meeting room. Lin Fan picked up his phone and checked for messages from his old classmate. There was no contact yet. Not wanting to waste time, Lin Fan dialed his secretary Chun Shui's phone, wanting to ask about her progress. The result was the same. No clues. At this time, a missed call on his phone caught Lin Fan's attention. Why is Su Yufei calling me? Didn't she say she was taking a day off today? He called back, but she didn't answer. There were a few possibilities. If the phone rang for a while and then was hung up, it meant she didn't want to answer or couldn't answer. If the call directly went to voicemail, it meant the phone was turned off. Currently, it was the first situation. Thinking back to how Su Yufei had been answering his calls in an instant recently, Lin Fan had a bad feeling. Just as he was thinking, his phone rang. It was Su Yufei's number. Hello, where are you? Lin Fan, hurry and save me. I. Su Yufei's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. Calm down. Where are you? I'm at the Exinen Hotel, 5. Before she could finish, there was the sound of the phone being snatched away. Then, the call was hung up. Lin Fan was left stunned, clutching his phone. Not long after, a Lamborghini was speeding out of the Han High Group's garage. Back at room 520 of the Exinen Hotel, Eric's eyes showed a hint of ruthlessness as he looked at Su Yufei, whom he was holding captive. He was almost caught, just now, almost caught by Lin Fan. If he hadn't been careful. Sister-in-law, you almost made things difficult for me. He smashed Su Yufei's phone on the ground, stomping on it a few times. Su Yufei was on her knees begging him, I didn't mean to. Please let me go. Letting her go was definitely impossible. His mother had given him such a good opportunity. How could he waste it? He came to Su Yufei, squatted down and said, Sister-in-law, let's make a deal. You give me what I want, and I can let you go back immediately. As he spoke, he looked at Su Yufei's body with a lecherous gaze and licked his lips. Anyone could see what Eric was thinking. Su Yufei was so scared that she covered her body, shaking her head. No, I am Lin Fan's woman. If you touch me, he won't let you go. Eric laughed. Some things couldn't be done. It was just a matter of having the right leverage. Wasn't Lin Fan trying to acquire the Sprite Foreign Trade Company? It wasn't impossible. And then, as he stared at Su Yufei, he said, You don't hold much importance in Lin Fan's heart. I believe he would agree to exchange a company for you. Just this once. You're crazy. Su Yufei didn't believe Eric's words. Eric didn't say anything more, just moved his fingers. No one knew how badly he was holding back. Before, whenever he wanted a woman, all he had to do was make a phone call, and they would come to him. Su Yufei was different. She was gorgeous, but impossible to obtain. No matter how much money he spent, he couldn't get her. At this time, Eric's desire became even higher, and he had an obsession that he had to obtain Su Yufei, even if it cost him everything. Every night, when he was sleeping with other women, he would be thinking about Su Yufei. He really wanted to pin her down and ravage her. Please let me go. I'm not as good as you think. I'm a very dirty woman. Su Yufei was terrified and curled up her body. At the same time, she called Lin Fan's name in her heart. Lin Fan, save me. If you don't come soon, I will be defiled by another man. The more she struggled, the more excited Eric became. He grabbed Su Yufei's hand, slowly caressing it, muttering, Sister-in-law, your skin is so smooth. With a smack, Su Yufei slapped Eric across the face. Eric touched his face, his expression turning fierce. He held Su Yufei's wrist with both hands. Su Yufei, don't think you're so precious. Ever since I knew about your infidelity, I haven't treated you like a normal woman. You can give yourself to others. Why can't you give yourself to me? Su Yufei shouted a few times, Help, help, Lin Fan. The name Lin Fan enraged Eric even more. He pinned Su Yufei on the bed directly, wanting to act. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Eric's back was drenched in sweat. He shouted a few times, President Lin, let me explain. Chapter 75. As they say, third time's the charm. Sir, it's me. The person who came wasn't Lin Fan. It was the group of men in suits. Eric breathed a sigh of relief, opened the door, and scolded. What is it? Don't you know I'm having fun? The leader of the men in suits didn't look too pleased, he told Eric. Dragging it out was not a good thing. If someone called the police, it wouldn't be easy to explain and escape. I understand. You guys go first. Eric figured no one would come, so he dismissed his bodyguards. He reopened the door and put the lock back on. Now, there was no one to stop him from having fun. Sister-in-law, I'm coming. But when he got back into the room, he saw Su Yufei holding up a decorative vase, pointing it at him. Don't come over, or I'll do it. Humph. Eric scoffed, not retreating but advancing. Su Yufei cried out and threw the vase at Eric's head. The expected scene of a bloody head didn't happen. Eric caught the vase with one hand. He snatched it away forcefully, and Su Yufei fell onto the bed. Not to mention the massive difference in strength between men and women, Eric was tall and large, like a bear. Taking care of one Su Yufei was as easy as pie. He put down the vase and shook his head slightly. Sister-in-law, this kind of thing isn't something you should be playing with. Come and play with me. He once again grabbed Su Yufei's hand, his eyes shining as he looked at her body. Knock, knock, knock. The door was knocked again. Eric was interrupted once again, feeling very frustrated. This time, he simply didn't want to open the door, even if it was Lin Fan. But the knocking became more and more frequent, each time like a blow to Eric's heart. When he was almost at his breaking point, his phone rang again. Helpless, Eric answered the phone. and his expression instantly turned as if he had just eaten shit. It was Lin Fan. The call from Lin Fan was a video call. Eric glanced at Su Yufei, warning her, "Don't make a sound, or I'll risk going to prison just to sleep with you." Su Yufei was speechless, feeling utterly wronged. "Over here," Eric answered the video call, putting on a flirtatious tone. "President Lin, what do I owe you?" In the video, Lin Fan could be seen in a corridor, knocking on the door. He looked at the camera and said, "Eric, open the door." These words were like a nightmare, making Eric's whole body weak. He almost fell to the ground. Lin Fan was right at the door. What was he going to do? "You're joking. I'm at home now." "Really? Open the door." The words were almost a command. Eric's breathing started to quicken. He didn't know from when, but for him, Lin Fan was like a demon. Perhaps he couldn't win against him, or perhaps it was Lin Fan's face that didn't show any emotions. It made him feel extremely scared. The voice he heard was like a death knell. Finally, he couldn't hold back any longer and opened the door and walked out. "Oh dear, President Lin. What a coincidence." In a panic, he closed the door behind him. Lin Fan noticed the small movements and told him to open the door. Eric claimed he didn't have his room card, wanting to take Lin Fan downstairs to find a staff member for help. Just at this moment, the door clicked open suddenly. Su Yufei rushed out, flying into Lin Fan's arms. "Ah, why didn't you come sooner? Do you know I almost?" Crying tears like a flower in the rain, she hit Lin Fan's chest. Eric panicked completely, claiming he didn't know what was happening. How could his sister-in-law be in this room? That was impossible. Lowly lies continued to come out of Eric's mouth. Lin Fan's expression remained calm. "Su Yufei, go to the car and wait. I'll have something to tell you later." Can't we say it here?" The woman stood on her toes, wanting a kiss. "Listen to me, go back." "Okay, I'll wait for you. We can play later." Su Yufei wiped away her tears and kissed Lin Fan on the cheek. Watching this scene, Eric's hatred was growing more and more. He clenched his fists tightly. But he had no choice. He could only force out a smile. "President Lin, some things are not what you think." "Then what is it?" "Eric, I think this is the third time now, right?" Eric did not deny it. The first time was at the masked ball, the second was at that wedding. And finally, today was this time. But he had a difficult situation. He had to blame his sister-in-law for being too charming, making him unable to forget her day and night. "President Lin, aren't we good brothers?" "Su Yufei, that dirty woman is no good anyway. Let your brother play with her for a while. What's wrong with that?" Lin Fan asked him. "Then if I play with your woman, would you be willing?" Eric was immediately stumped and speechless. Rough words weren't unreasonable. Women weren't something to share, even if they were good brothers. If Su Yufei was a stranger, Lin Fan could pretend that he didn't see anything. But the problem was, Su Yufei was his woman. Touching Su Yufei was equivalent to challenging Lin Fan's authority. "I understand. What happened today was wrong. I am willing to apologize." "I'm sorry." Eric bowed. If an apology was useful, what would we need the police for? Lin Fan patted Eric's shoulder and whispered into his ear, "You've already crossed my line. If an apology is not accepted, what do you want?" Lin Fan smiled. "I want to send you to prison." Hearing the words, "send to prison," Eric panicked. If he went to prison, his second half of life would be ruined, and his mother would also be disappointed in him. No, he couldn't go to prison. "President Lin, there is no need to be this cruel. Although, I did have some feelings for my sister-in-law, but I didn't touch her. Having thoughts is a problem. Eric, as they say, third time's the charm." Lin Fan grabbed his clothes. "If it were before, I might have forgiven you. This time, you're definitely going in. There's no room for discussion." With a strong push, Eric took a few steps back and fell to the ground. Eric was completely enraged and cursed at Lin Fan. "You want to make sure that I'm completely ruined, right? If you want to fight, then let's fight. Anyway, we didn't have anything happen. Even if we go to court, I'll win." At this moment, the door to room 519 opened and the Annie walked out. Lin Fan asked him again, "You said you could win in court. Did you ask this Annie?" "Yes, it's this person. I gave her a few hundred yuan and told her to get my girlfriend out." "Don't talk nonsense." Eric angrily pointed at the auntie. The auntie wasn't afraid and spoke directly to Lin Fan. "Young man, when we go to court, I can be a witness." "Okay, thank you, auntie." Lin Fan told the auntie to go to the police station to report it. And when the police came, she could just tell them the truth. Eric was completely defeated. Lin Fan was really going to call the police and arrest him. He immediately kneeled on the ground. He begged Lin Fan to let him go. That's right. Didn't you want to acquire our company? I agree. I really agree. It was too late. Lin Fan's decisions wouldn't be taken back. Besides, he had a way to acquire the Sprite Foreign Trade Company from the beginning. You should just repent in there, Mr. Eric. Chapter 76. The Press Conference. Later, the police took Eric away. Who would have thought that this big, burly man would be so scared that he wet his pants when he was taken away? Lin Fan also took Su Yufei to make a statement. They were busy until 6 in the evening. On the way, listening to Su Yufei. The reason she came to the Xian Hotel was due to a mysterious text message. But her phone had been smashed, so there was no way to tell if it was true or false. It's definitely true. I wanted to help you. If we could find Lin's dad, you'd be happy. Su Yufei said. Whether it's true or not isn't important. Don't risk it next time, understand? Su Yufei nodded forcefully, her hand moving towards the button on Lin Fan's chest. Lin Fan knew what the other party meant, but he just took her hand away and said, I'm not in the mood right now. You handle it yourself? Eric wasn't the kidnapper. He could tell from his dazed look. The matter was still unresolved. Time was so tight. How could he have time for love and affection? Su Yufei didn't know what she was thinking, or maybe, just like Lu Jujia, she was addicted. She directly started using her handiwork in the passenger seat. The vehicle was driving on the road, attracting the attention of many people. The rich play differently, doing that on the main road. If you have the money, you'll play even more wildly. Don't say anything, the light's green. With the roaring engine, the Lamborghini sped past everyone, causing a burst of exclamations. The next day, it was already time for the press conference. In the Sprite Foreign Trade Company, in Mom's personal bedroom. Ultimately, I'm the better one. Han Hai Group is preparing for a press conference. Mom was sitting on her chair, looking at the news headlines on her phone. Li Sheng was beside her, pouting, Lin Fan is doomed, haha. Mom called Li Sheng over and threw a bank card at him. There was 10 million inside, the rest was a bonus. Thank you, my dear. Li Sheng held the card, and he couldn't wait to kiss it. He had been through too much recently. First, he was fired from the Daheng Club, and then was implicated by Lu Wei, almost going to prison. Thinking about it now, Lin Fan had been involved in all of it. If it hadn't been for Lin Fan, he wouldn't be so humble. Luckily, Li Sheng had turned things around. With 10 million, there wasn't anything he couldn't do. The key thing was, Lin Fan was finally stepping down. It feels good. It really does feel good. Dear, you saved me. I don't know how to repay you. The fat on Mom's face formed a smile. That's easy. As she spoke, she tapped her cheek with her finger. Li Sheng tried to suppress his disgust and came next to Mom, closing his eyes and kissing her. It wasn't over yet. Mom tapped her lips. Looking at Mom's face from close up, Li Sheng was going to break down. But he was in a dependent position, so he had no choice. He puckered up his lips and slowly approached. Oh dear, it's not like we're children. What's there to be reserved about? Mom pressed Li Sheng's head, kissing him forcefully. Besides that, her hands and feet weren't idle. No effort, no reward. Being forcefully kissed, Li Sheng was completely reckless. No matter how hard it was, he had to grit his teeth and endure. When they finished, Li Sheng seemed to have lost his soul, staring at the ceiling blankly. Mom's face, on the other hand, was flushed with a smile. Li Sheng, your performance just now is good. Tonight I'll reward you once more. Huh. Do you have any objections? No, I'll do my best. Li Sheng supported his back and sat up from the bed. Watching Mom doing her hair, he cursed in his heart. What is that thing? So ugly, and still trying to make herself beautiful. Suddenly, Mom suddenly thought of something and dialed Eric's number. It didn't answer, the phone was turned off. Mom guessed that her obedient son must have had a big battle with that Su Yufei last night and hadn't gotten out of bed yet. It had to be said that Su Yufei was just like the rumors, she didn't have a brain. She could be manipulated with just a few words. Eric was also too soft when it came to women. If she was a man, with a love-obsessed woman like Su Yufei, she could trick her into giving birth to 10 children. It could be said that in the ever-changing market, women who were ruled by love wouldn't get far. This was what she said. Besides Su Yufei, that Zhou Mei, who had asked her out yesterday, also deserved her attention. Li Sheng, do you still remember what Zhou Mei said when I took you out yesterday? Of course I remember. Li Sheng straightened his back and said, yesterday, Zhou Mei actually hinted that you were the kidnapper. I was very angry. I really wanted to beat her up. I am the kidnapper. She's speaking nonsense. Mom laughed and agreed that what Li Sheng said was right. She wasn't the kidnapper. Zhou didn't know where she got the information from, saying she was the kidnapper. What did this prove? It proved that Li Shang wasn't doing a good job at keeping secrets. Oh dear, I really tried my best. Li Shang was a little flustered. I'm not blaming you. It's normal for the process to have flaws, as long as the result is good. Mom said, what I'm afraid of is the next move of White Industries. What does that mean? I'm afraid that White Industries will unite with Han Hai Group. That would be troublesome. Mom's expression darkened. Honestly speaking, White Industries was considered their sister company. In theory, they should be on their side. But Zhou from White Industries contacted her and hinted that the Sprite Foreign Trade Company was the kidnapper. Even if it wasn't directly stated, it meant that the friendly relationship no longer existed. It was very possible that White Industries had reached some sort of cooperation with the Han Hai Group and were on the same side. This was not good news. If White Industries helped Han Hai Group acquire the Sprite Foreign Trade Company, then things would be bad. Li Shang wasn't worried at all. Dear, Lin Fan is planning to resign anyway. There's nothing to be afraid of in him cooperating with White Industries. Like you said, the process isn't important, the result is the truth. That's indeed the case. Mom's victory smile appeared again. Since Zhou does not care about family ties, then there's no need for me to be polite. Mom had already planned it out. After she defeated Lin Fan, her next target would be White Industries. But for now, she had to see Lin Fan's downfall. Unknowingly, it was already time for the Han Hai Group's press conference. As it was a live broadcast across the whole internet, Mom turned on her phone, watching the screen slowly. The press conference was packed. Business leaders, shareholders, and news reporters were gathered at the venue. Everyone was staring at the stage, waiting for Lin Fan's appearance. When Lin Fan appeared, the clicking sounds of cameras and the reporters' questions filled the hall. Mr. Lin Fan, are you resigning to take responsibility for the public opinion from the previous period? President Lin, are there any problems within Han Hai Group? Mr. Lin, it's rumored that your father was recently kidnapped, is that true? The questions rained down. Lin Fan simply said, no comment. Chapter 77. The Resigned, except for Lin Fan. The press conference proceeded as scheduled. Lin Fan sat in the main seat, his fingers interlocked, watching the crowd below the stage. The host began, everyone, please calm down. The press conference is about to start. Please take your seats. Fellow reporters, please don't be impatient. There will be a Q&A session after the press conference. After the crowd calmed down somewhat, Lin Fan spoke into the microphone. He slowly stated the topic for today. Everyone, please wait for me a moment. I am announcing that the press conference will be delayed for 5 minutes. After speaking, Lin Fan stayed in his seat, leisurely playing on his phone. But the people below the stage were different. All of them were shocked. I've been to many press conferences, but I've never seen one delayed because everyone wasn't there yet. Yeah, what on earth is Lin Fan planning? There's something fishy going on. I think there's a big news coming. Backstage, some members of the board of directors were already drenched in sweat. At this moment, it was like a sword was hanging over their heads. Should they confess? No, Lin Fan was putting pressure on them. He would definitely not fire them, core employees. At the same time, on the live broadcast, Mom looked at the phone screen, not quite understanding Lin Fan's actions. After thinking it over, there was only one possibility, that Lin Fan was stalling for time. Knowing his defeat was certain, he wanted to use the time to create opportunities for his so-called investigators. Don't worry, honey. My brother told me that everything is safe. Li Shang whispered into Mom's ear. Okay, good. Lin Fan, just struggle all you want. I'm happy to watch you fall apart. Knowing that the ending wouldn't change, Mom relaxed a little. Soon, 5 minutes passed. Lin Fan was seen picking up the microphone and saying, Uncle Lu, please come out for a moment. While everyone was confused, an elderly man with white hair walked out from behind the stage. He had a bitter look on his face, and his small, thin frame was trembling slightly. After being called out, Uncle Lu first came up to Lin Fan and whispered, President Lin, I know I was wrong. Let's settle this privately, okay? I don't want my family to see such an ugly side of me, please. Lin Fan had no emotions at all. He simply handed the microphone to him. You thought of your family, but did you ever think that Han Hai Group is also your family? I can't forgive you for spending company funds for personal enjoyment, but I cannot forgive you for helping others steal the company's confidential information. If I'm not wrong, that Li Shang is your nephew, right? Uncle Lu's body shook. He looked up at Lin Fan's eyes that saw everything. He immediately felt ashamed. Indeed, Li Shang was his nephew. It was then, that he had leaked the company's top-secret materials and, in exchange, received 5 million yuan from Li Shang. Taking the microphone, Uncle Lu said to everyone, "Everyone, I am Lucy. I'm sorry to Han Hai Group, and I'm sorry for President Lin's cultivation. From now on, I will resign from my position. I'm sorry." First, he bowed deeply to Lin Fan, and then bowed his head to everyone. The crowd clearly did not expect this to happen. They started whispering to each other, discussing. What's happening? Old Lu is Han Hai Group's product manager. He controls all aspects of the product. Now he's going to run away? The press conference is actually turning into a confession meeting. That's kind of interesting. Lin Fan is really very courageous. He dares to fire a core member of the board of directors. The reporters had already kicked into high gear, and the flashing lights had turned the stage into an ocean of light. When the other members of the board of directors saw this scene, panicked expressions finally appeared on their faces. Lin Fan really dared. They couldn't let the press conference continue. They had to think of a way. Immediately, a phone call was made to Lin Fan's phone. "Hello, President Su. You want me to prioritize Han Hai Group? I shouldn't be firing board members. Then I have a question I want to ask you. What if those people wanted me to die?" The other party did not directly answer the question, but spoke of many reasons. About the stock price, reputation, and so on. And it was a hint to Lin Fan that if he dared to expose the scandals of the board members at the press conference, then their company would terminate their cooperation with Han Hai Group. The phone call was hung up directly. Lin Fan announced once again that the press conference would be delayed another 5 minutes. Some people couldn't hold on anymore and went to the stage to confess their crimes. In just 10 minutes, 3 core members resigned. These people were not minor characters. They were the real authorities controlling the products of Han Hai Group. You could say that they were indispensable. Lin Fan fired them without blinking an eye. Everyone had a different opinion now. With such courage, he didn't seem like he was going to resign. Lin Fan was clearly using the press conference to cleanse the inside. As the live broadcast was being transmitted around the country, the words, "Lin Fan fires employees," also made it to the top of the trending list. Of course, Mom, who was located at the Sprite Foreign Trade Company, also saw it. Unlike the confident attitude she had before, Mom was clearly a little angry, gritting her teeth. "Lin Fan, you could have just resigned. It seems you don't want to see your dear dad." Looking at Li Shang, he was spacing out, not quite there. Mom slapped his face. "What are you spacing out about? You aren't the one who got fired. You're getting scared for no reason?" "No way. I was thinking about something." Honestly speaking, Li Shang was a bit panicked. If Uncle Lu had told them about his deeds, he would be going to prison for more than a few years. "Honey, we should put some pressure on Lin Fan. I don't believe he wouldn't resign." "You know that, then quickly do it." Using a voice changer, Li Shang called Lin Fan. He started off with threatening words. "Lin Fan, what are you doing? If you don't resign, don't even think about seeing your father again." "Did I say that I wouldn't resign? Don't think I don't know that you're stalling for time." Li Shang yelled into his phone. "I'm giving you 30 seconds. If you still want to stall for time, then be prepared to pick up your father's corpse." After saying that, he was about to hang up. Lin Fan's voice continued to come over. "Don't be so anxious. Let me guess who you are. Since you're using a voice changer, you definitely know me. Let me guess, you have some relationship with the Sprite Foreign Trade Company, right?" Mom's pupils widened. She motioned for Li Shang to quickly reply, and not to give Lin Fan the chance to think. "So what if I do? So what if I don't? You just need to do your thing." Li Shang chose an ambiguous reply. Lin Fan's laughter came from the other end. He said that he knew. And he told Li Shang some good news. Yesterday night, a young man named Eric at Xinen Hotel was arrested. At the police station, he had confessed everything. "Oh, and that included you, Li Shang." Hearing his name, Li Shang was terrified, and before he knew it, he was covered in sweat. How was it possible? How could Lin Fan know it was him? Panic began to spread, and Mom slapped him awake once again, mumbling, "Useless. He was just trying to trick you. Why couldn't you see that?" Li Shang collected himself and replied to the phone, "No, I don't know any Li Shang." Chapter 78. You wouldn't want your own son to go in, would you? In a moment of panic, Li Shang accidentally said something wrong. When he hung up the phone, it further confirmed his guilty conscience. Mom touched her chest, half dead from being so angry at Li Shang. "You useless thing. What use are you?" "Honey, it was just a momentary slip." Li Shang helped Mom massage her back. "Don't be angry. Don't hurt your body." "You shut up." Mom slapped Li Shang's face again. It was not false that she was angry. She could have won, but she almost let Lin Fan turn things around. It's okay. His father is in our hands. We still have the advantage. But have you ever thought that if Lin Fan wanted to stall for time, would you really kill his father? This question immediately left Li Shang speechless. Murder was a death sentence. It wasn't just going in for a few years, it was the death penalty. Thinking about his death, Li Shang was a little hesitant. Honey, should we change the conditions? Perhaps, if Lin Fan thinks the conditions are acceptable, he'll agree. You idiot. Lowering the conditions, wouldn't that mean we're showing weakness? Mom thought for a moment and told Li Shang to send the other party a text message. It said that they had changed their minds. Given that Lin Fan wasn't being sincere, they were adding 20 billion yuan to the ransom. The time limit was before noon. The ransom money had to be divided into 10 parts, invested into the stocks of these companies. Mom sent a list to Li Shang's phone. After looking at it, Li Shang found that the companies on the list were all competitors of Han Hai Group. The goal of doing this was very clear. It was to mix up the situation, to prevent Lin Fan from determining which one was the kidnapper. Honey, why did you include our company on the list? Why are you asking so much? I have my reasons. Mom urged him to act quickly. Honestly speaking, this plan was a last-ditch effort. Even if it couldn't mix things up, it could at least temporarily limit some of Han Hai Group's cash flow. If it wasn't for Li Shang being foolish, would there be the need for this? Oh, that's right, there was one more thing. If they did not receive the 20 billion yuan ransom by noon, then they would send Lin's dad to the African savannah for a tour. As for how long it would take for him to return, that would be up to fate. Seeing that Li Shang had sent the text, Mom was still worried and called Eric again. It still didn't answer. Back at the press conference venue, Lin Fan received the text. The scales of victory had already started to tip in his favor, but the text message brought them back to the starting point. Mom, this person could thrive in the cruel market. She really had some skills. Just that one new condition was very difficult to deal with. First, by dividing the 20 billion in cash into 10 companies, they were not only disrupting the goal, but they were also dragging those companies down with them. Whether it was a confrontation before or evidence after, it would create difficulties for Han Hai Group. Then they would send his father to the African savannah for a tour. It was a tour in name only. It wasn't like they were forcing him. If something unexpected happened, they couldn't be charged with murder. That's interesting, but I already have countermeasures. Lin Fan saw a message that his old classmate had sent. The other party said that the audio information had been deciphered. The conclusion was as expected. It was Li Shang's voice. With solid evidence, Lin Fan began to counterattack. He first sent 2 pieces of audio evidence to the mom of Sprite Foreign Trade Company, then blacklisted her. After finishing this, he continued to speak at the press conference. Everyone, I'm sorry for letting everyone see this scene. Han Hai Group is a company that has been established for over 10 years, and we were founded with the aim of providing consumers with the most perfect products. Now perfection is no longer, and there are quite a few Han Hai people who have lost their original intention. However, I promise everyone. Lin Fan stood up. I will take responsibility and get rid of all the pests harming Han Hai Group. Below the stage, there was thunderous applause. These words had already indicated that Lin Fan was not going to resign. He was planning to fight to the end. Li Shang saw the live broadcast, and although he was flustered, he was still smug. Lin Fan was just putting on a show. In his heart, he was actually panicking and was about to fall. Honey, you think so too, right? When he turned his gaze to Mom, he saw that she was pale. She was staring at her phone screen, biting her lower lip. Li Shang had never seen her like this before, and he felt a bad premonition. He got up, pretending to go to the bathroom. Come back. Mom loudly called Li Shang back and played the recording for him. Listen, whose voice is this? Li Shang's voice was in the recording. It was very clear. What did it mean? They were completely exposed. Sending the recording to Mom was like questioning her. Li Shang shook his head, indicating that shouldn't be the case. This voice changer was the newest technology from abroad. No one could have deciphered it. It must be fake. That's right, the recording was fake. With a smack, Mom didn't even know how many times she had slapped Li Shang. Fake your mom? You're really useless. You do more harm than good. Daring to send them the recording meant that the other party had absolute certainty. And Mom had also discovered that Lin Fan had already blacklisted her. He wouldn't even give her a chance to explain. At this time, if she used her kidnapper identity to speak, wouldn't that mean she was the kidnapper? Lin Fan was ruthless. After thinking hard, Mom didn't come up with a method for the time being. She had no choice but to look at Li Shang. Being looked at, Li Sheng was so scared that he kneeled down. Honey, you can't turn me in. If I go in, then you'll never see me again. He spoke frantically, with tears in his eyes. Mom still had a soft heart. She laid back in the chair, looking tired, and said, Okay, I won't sell you out. Go take Lin's dad to the Exine Hotel. As long as we have the leverage, we won't lose. Li Sheng was overjoyed, saying, I definitely won't let you down, honey. After speaking, he left the room. Once Li Sheng had left, Mom immediately changed her face. She told a few bodyguards to follow Li Sheng and not let him run away. Then, she opened another recording. It was an interrogation record. Name? Eric. Occupation? Chairman of Sprite Foreign Trade Company. Assistant. Do you know why you were arrested? Illegal confinement. No. Also attempted rape and sexual harassment. Officer, do I really have to go back? Please, not this. Mr. Eric, if you're scared, then you shouldn't have done those things. I want to call my mom. I'm sorry. You need to confess everything before you can communicate with your family. Okay, I'll say it. Hearing this, Mom could no longer control her emotions and tears were streaming down her face. Eric was her only son. From childhood to adulthood, he had never experienced any suffering. Now, he was arrested. How must he be thinking about her? Li Sheng, don't blame me. Mom sent a letter to Han Hai Group. I'm the chairman of Sprite Foreign Trade Company, and there's some things I'd like to discuss with President Lin. Chapter 79. Acquiring the Sprite Foreign Trade Company. The press conference ended, and Lin Fan was surrounded by reporters. The questions these people asked were very tricky. Each time they were challenging Lin Fan's ability to respond, and even small slips of the tongue would be endlessly amplified by the reporters. Even in such a high-pressure environment, Lin Fan still handled the situation with ease, calmly answering everyone's questions. Mr. Lin Fan, today's press conference went very smoothly. How did you plan it? Of course, a press conference needs planning, but planning is just a small part of the overall strategy. The business world is like a battlefield. Who can say that they are not a pawn? After speaking, Lin Fan gracefully turned around, leaving the reporters with thoughtful expressions. Backstage, those surviving members of the board of directors came together. President Lin, let me take your clothes for you. You must be thirsty, President Lin. I prepared some water for you. The private room has already been prepared. We're just waiting for you, President Lin. Everyone had completely changed their attitudes. Lin Fan thought that today's press conference was not a waste of time. At this time, a call came in. Okay, I understand. Lin Fan quickly left, and the board of directors followed him closely. Half an hour later, at the Han Hai Group's president's office, his secretary, Qin Shuyi, prepared a cup of coffee for Lin Fan and put it in front of him. After taking a sip, Lin Fan asked her, You said the chairman of the Sprite Foreign Trade Company is looking for me? Why hasn't the call come in yet? I wouldn't dare to lie to you, President Lin. After receiving the letter, I immediately called you. Lin Fan hummed and continued to sip his coffee. At this time, there was a knock at the door. Come in. The person who came was plump. Who else could it be but Mom? Lin Fan was a little surprised. He hadn't expected her to actually come to their company in person. Shuyi, take out my most prized tea. A distinguished guest has come. No need to go to the trouble. President Lin, I've come here today not to drink tea. I'll just be saying a few words. Mom took out a document from her bag and placed it on Lin Fan's desk. She said, President Lin, I want to report someone. That's interesting. Who is it that you want to report? Li Sheng. This answer was what Lin Fan had expected. He put down his cup and opened the document. As expected, inside was the evidence of Li Sheng's kidnapping. Lin Fan didn't hide anything and said, You're reporting him? Is it to get rid of the suspicions on the Sprite Foreign Trade Company? No, Mom wasn't afraid at all. The Sprite Foreign Trade Company has no suspicions at all. There was a very interesting rule in law that whoever makes a claim is the one who has to provide the evidence. If you wanted to say that the Sprite Foreign Trade Company was involved, you needed evidence. He didn't believe Han Hai Group could produce it. Lin Fan really couldn't produce it, but he tossed the document aside and said, It seems the Sprite Foreign Trade Company isn't being very sincere. Shuyi, please see our guest out. Wait. Mom raised her hand to stop her, with displeasure in her eyes. What do you want? I need what you're very clear about. As long as the Sprite Foreign Trade Company agrees to the acquisition, I can let all of this go. Without any hesitation, Mom said it was impossible. Besides, she had said many times that the kidnapping incident had nothing to do with the Sprite Foreign Trade Company. It was all Li Sheng acting on his own. If he wanted to find someone, he should go look for Li Shang. It had nothing to do with her. No matter what, Mom refused to agree to the acquisition. Lin Fan's face turned cold. If she wouldn't agree, then there was no need to talk. Mom didn't leave, directly sitting down in the chair. Now that I'm here, I have to resolve the matter. Please leave. Don't force me to call security. It wouldn't look good for either of us. Okay, I'll take a step back. I can allow Han Hai Group to continue investing in our company, but the controlling stake needs to be in my hands. Lin Fan chuckled. Who was the one pleading now? Is that how you ask for help? I'll say it again. If your company does not agree to the acquisition, I will sue you. I believe that when that kid Li Shang gets arrested, he'll confess everything. Mom didn't doubt Lin Fan's courage at all. He really would sue the Sprite Foreign Trade Company. She could handle being sued, but the important thing was the knock-on effect. At that time, she could forget about protecting the company's stock price. You could say that Lin Fan had already made up his mind to acquire their company. If they didn't make a move now, it could very well be the company's end. Okay, I agree to it. Mom finally gave in. Lin Fan smiled, extending his hand. That's a wise move. Despite feeling 100 times unwilling, Mom still gritted her teeth and extended her hand. A handshake did not mean the matter was settled. They still needed to sign a contract. Secretary Chen Shui had already prepared and handed a contract to Mom. Hello, please sign here. Her hand was shaking slightly. Before she signed it, Mom brought up another condition. The contract could be signed, but Lin Fan had to provide a letter of leniency. She didn't want her son to go to prison. Lin Fan cursed an old fox in his heart, so getting Eric out was the main priority. The rest was just a setup. It had to be said, Mom's acting was very good. In fact, before she came, she had already prepared to sell the company. This condition isn't too much, right? If you agree, then I'll sign. I can't make that decision. Eric attempted to rape someone, and that person wasn't me, it was Su Yufei. Mom said there was no difference. Su Yufei was nothing more than a love-obsessed woman. For Lin Fan, she was just like a pet. Why would he ask her opinion if he wanted to use his pet? Honestly, Lin Fan didn't feel comfortable when he heard these words. But he couldn't refute it. Perhaps, in the eyes of others, Su Yufei had already become his pet. After thinking it over, Lin Fan still shook his head. You don't know what Eric did. If you saw what he did, and could still say those words, then I'll sign. President Lin, then I can't sign for the time being. I'm sorry. Mom closed the contract. Whatever you want. Lin Fan maintained an indifferent attitude and continued to drink his coffee. The office suddenly quieted down. The two of them had already reached a stalemate. It was just a matter of who would give way first. Anyway, Lin Fan had the advantage. He wasn't afraid at all. This state continued for a few minutes, until the sound of writing was heard in the office. Lin Fan knew that he had one. Welcome to Han Hai Group. Humph. I hope you don't go back on your word, President Lin. Without saying much, Mom turned around and left, leaving behind a contract worth hundreds of billions. Chen Shui handed the contract to Lin Fan. Congratulations, President Lin. With the Sprite Foreign Trade Company, our business empire will be even bigger. This is just the beginning. What I want is more than this. Lin Fan took out his pen and signed his name on it as well. Once a contract was signed, it was protected by law. The Sprite Foreign Trade Company had no way of going back on their word. After settling his mood, Lin Fan continued his counterattack. Now he had to deal with Li Shang. Officer Wang, long time no see. Yes, what I said is true. Please arrest Li Shang. Chapter 80. People Change. In less than half a day, Officer Wang called and said that Li Shang had been arrested. And he said that when Li Shang was found, his face was full of surprise and terror. It was as if he couldn't believe that he would be discovered. When Officer Wang told him that someone had reported him, he shouted, "Impossible! Officer, I'm innocent." Whether he was innocent or not was beside the point. The group of them had tied up an old man there. They were clearly not good people. So, Li Shang and his followers were arrested at the police station. The case was also under further investigation. It was believed that there would be results soon. Lin's dad was immediately sent to the hospital. President Lin, your father's condition isn't very good. You need to be mentally prepared. I understand, thank you, Officer Wang. After hanging up the phone, Lin Fan went to the hospital. Seeing that his father had lost a lot of weight, and there were still some dried blood clots and bruises on his face, Lin Fan couldn't help but feel moved. Regardless of what Lin's dad had done before, he was still his family. There was no way not to feel sorry when your family is hurt. When he got to the ward, a doctor came up to him. "Excuse me, Are you the patient's family? Yes, I'm his child. The doctor told him, your father's head suffered multiple impacts, and he is currently unconscious. We need to get a brain CT. Please go and take care of the procedures as soon as possible. Is his life in danger? It's hard to say. If it's a normal concussion, then it's no big deal. But if it's a cerebral hemorrhage... Okay, thank you for everything. That day, Lin Fan was busy at the hospital and didn't even have time to go back and rest. At the same time, he also informed his younger sister, Yushuan. She was very surprised and had already bought her train tickets and was on her way. That night, Lin's dad was admitted to the ICU. It was a cerebral hemorrhage. The doctor said that the chances of saving him were slim. Lin Fan was smoking on the rooftop. It was as if he wanted to chase away the worries in his heart. Ding ding ding, a message came. It was Lu Jiajia. President Lin, I heard your father was admitted to the hospital. Is he all right? A cerebral hemorrhage, it's very likely he won't make it. That's so serious. President Lin, I'll come over, it might help a little. No need, he's in the ICU. Even I can't do anything to help. President Lin, this is sudden. You have to trust the doctors. Uncle will definitely be okay. Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I did. I'll talk to you about it tomorrow. The matter with Uncle is more important. Okay. After swiping out of the chat box, Su Yufei also sent a message. Unlike Lu Jiajia, who was well informed, Su Yufei's message was just asking where Lin Fan was. Where are you? I'm coming to find you. Why are you looking for me? Didn't you say you'd give me a reward? I did a great job. I'm not in the mood. Deal with it yourself. Deal with it myself again? Lin Fan, do you realize how many times you've said that? I'm starting to wonder if you're just impotent. Su Yufei, you are so brave, daring to talk to me like that. No, I mean okay. I admit I was wrong. But women have needs, you can endure it for a while, but not for life. Did you not see what day it is today? Isn't today a good day? I saw you shining at the press conference, that was very impressive. My dad's in the ICU. Sorry, I didn't know what happened. Now that you know, hurry up and come over. Not long after, Su Yufei appeared beside him, hanging her head and not saying a word. Lin Fan asked her, you know to come now? I didn't know that Dad was hospitalized. You didn't tell me. Don't call me Dad, we're divorced. Su Yufei wanted to refute it, but seeing that Lin Fan's face was not good, she didn't say it. She just stood by Lin Fan, not daring to say a word. At this time, another call came in. It was a call from Zhou Mei, a call to express her condolences. She said that when she called the Han Hai Group, his secretary, Chen Shuyi, had told her about it. President Lin, it's not your fault. Please don't feel guilty. If you need help, White Industries will do its best to help, and I also know a few specialists in neurology. Thank you, I appreciate it. Under Zhou Mei's arrangements, a few specialists were already on their way. Afterward, Lin Fan's phone didn't stop ringing. Everyone was willing to provide help. There was a smile on Lin Fan's face. Thank you all. One day, I'll definitely pay you a visit to express my gratitude. In comparison, Su Yufei was like an outsider, being neglected. Why do you look so unhappy? Lin Fan put away his phone and suddenly asked Su Yufei. She turned her head away, saying nothing. In fact, she was secretly crying. When her emotions weren't cared for, it was normal to cry. Turn your head around. Lin Fan's commanding voice sounded. I don't want to. You don't care about me at all. Lin Fan forcefully grabbed Su Yufei's chin and turned her face over, teasing, look at you. What are you crying for? Did I say that I didn't care about you? The reward that I mentioned before was only if you got the Tourism City project. Think about it. Isn't that the case? Su Yufei was hesitant. But you can't neglect me like that. To tell you the truth, do you have other women? Heh, so what if I do? It's nothing, but I'm angry. Why can other women get close to you, but I can't? Su Yufei slapped Lin Fan's hand away and shouted, I made a mistake. It doesn't mean I'll always be in the wrong. Why do you refuse to look at me more? Every day, all I see is your cold stare. You weren't like this before. Before, you would care for my feelings, you would coax me into being happy, and you would say good morning and good night to me with a smile. Lin Fan, you've become so unfamiliar. With his hand on the railing, Lin Fan looked at the moon, saying people change. Was the Su Yufei from back then like this? Back then, Su Yufei smiled so purely, and she would also lend a helping hand to those in need. There was a saying, one glance that lasted a lifetime. At that time, With just that one look, Lin Fan had fallen. Su Yufei, don't say that I've changed. Think about yourself. How similar are you to the Su Yufei from back then? I am me. You're the one who's just still nostalgic for the past. Since she was saying it like that, Lin Fan was helpless. Perhaps he had already died back then. I'm giving you two options. If you still want to stay by my side to continue to be neglected, then stay. Lin Fan pointed into the distance. Of course, you can choose to leave and go find your poems in the distance. I won't stop you. Su Yufei's chest rose and fell violently, as if she had made a decision. She turned and left, without any hesitation. Since she had decided like that, Lin Fan didn't try to persuade her and didn't feel any sadness. Don't think you can shake me off. For the rest of my life, I'll be a demon beside you. There's no way you can escape. Su Yufei actually turned back, hugged Lin Fan's face, and kissed him. Chapter 81. A Task for You Too. Several days passed since then. The acquisition of the elf trading company was proceeding as scheduled. It was expected to be completed within a few days. Li Shang's preliminary investigation results were also finalized. Team leader Wang told Lin Fan that Li Shang would face multiple charges, and this wouldn't be a simple few years in prison. He would likely be locked up for 20 years. Lin Fan, being a good man, also handed over the evidence of Li Shang's previous theft of company assets and transmission of secrets to team leader Wang. And so came the line. He's not coming out anytime soon. Life imprisonment at the least. Good. He deserves it. In addition, the doctor also reported that Lin's father's condition had stabilized and he was out of life-threatening danger. Initially, Lin Fan wanted to take leave to help. His younger sister, Yuxian, stopped him, stating that she could manage alone with the help of the nanny. Brother, go and handle your work. Dad's stable, and with the doctors and nurses around, they don't need too many people here. All right, you take care of yourself too. Despite saying this, Lin Fan still visited them in the hospital every few days. The Tourism City project was also being urgently followed up. During this time, Zhou met with him several times, but they were unable to reach an agreement each time. She was simply unwilling to allow Han Hai Group to invest. One of the two conditions, acquiring the elf trading company, had been fulfilled, and that was that. White Heavy Industries still wouldn't agree to the condition of profit sharing through investment. Just as Lin Fan was racking his brains, Lu Jiejia visited his villa again. Mr. Lin, long time no see. We just saw each other, didn't we? Have a seat. What good news have you brought today? Deliberately sitting next to Lin Fan, Lu Jiejia chuckled. Of course, there's good news. Lin Fan, what are you going to use to trade for it? Lin Fan coughed, asking her to be serious. There were still a lot of people at home. Don't talk about sensitive topics. Lu Jiejia laughed, hitting Lin Fan playfully. What are you thinking? Or rather, what is Mr. Lin thinking again? Don't get too close, Ms. Lu. I won't. The woman was pushing and shoving, being very ambiguous. Just then, Su Yufei came out of her room and witnessed this scene. Her fists instinctively clenched. She quickly walked over to Lu Jiejia and called out, Why are you here again? Can I come? Lu Jiejia let go of Lin Fan, staring at Su Yufei. Su Yufei said she couldn't. This was her home. She didn't welcome promiscuous women. Upon hearing this, Lu Jiejia couldn't help but sneer. A promiscuous woman? Is it? Su Yufei, who knows who the real promiscuous one is? I haven't forgotten what you did back then. That's in the past. People need to look forward. Ha ha ha, Su Yufei, you're so hypocritical. If past events could be treated as if they didn't happen, then there would be no hatred between people. It's none of your business. But I want to interfere. As they spoke, the air between the two was thick with animosity. It seemed like they were about to fight. Enough. Lin Fan spoke up, stopping them. You two, stop arguing. Lu Jiejia said, Okay. She continued to sit next to Lin Fan as if nothing had just happened. Su Yufei was different. She was furious. Who was the owner of this house, anyway? Why didn't Lin Fan side with her? Not leaving, Su Yufei sat on Lin Fan's other side, determined to compete with this Lu Jiejia. She didn't believe Lin Fan wouldn't be moved. First, she hugged Lin Fan's arm and showed a sweet smile. Lin Fan, what do you want to eat tonight? I'll make it for you. How about braised pork ribs? It's your favorite. On the other side, Lu Jiejia gritted her teeth slightly and said to Lin Fan, Mr. Lin, I have some good news for you. Let's eat out tonight. As such, Su Yufei was unconvinced. She was going to cook dinner, but Lu Jiejia said they should eat out. Clearly, she was here to cause trouble. Fortunately, Su Yufei had a trump card. Lin Fan, let's continue doing those things tonight. Last time, you made my legs all wobbly. Lu Jiajia said plainly, you are so shameless. I'm shameless. Are you so pure? With a few words, they started arguing again. That's how women are. Lin Fan stood up directly, interrupting them. If you want to continue playing this boring catfight game, I'm leaving. Don't. As they spoke in unison, the two finally calmed down. Lin Fan regained his voice, first asking Lu Jiajia, what's the good news? I've been hearing you talk about it for a while now. Well, I'm not sure if it's good news. After some deliberation, Lu Jiajia decided to share it. Mr. Lin, do you remember a person named Kaisu? Oh, isn't he a popular celebrity? I know. Su Yufei said, I used to be a fan of his, but recently he was exposed. I heard that Kaisu had an affair with a certain woman, and it's all over the news. Lin Fan couldn't help but ask, what happened to Kaisu? An idol with a blemish had no commercial value. No, that's not the good news I wanted to talk about. Mr. Lin, you may not know, but I have some connections in the entertainment industry. A director of a famous variety show told me some news. Because of Kaisu's issue, the variety show they made for him can't just stop. So, the directing team asked me if I had anyone to recommend? Someone with a good physique and good looks. And so, I thought of you. Variety shows bring in money quickly, and the most important thing is that they can increase visibility. That would be beneficial for Han Hai Group. What Lu Jiajia said was indeed good news. However, he was quiet and not suited for variety shows that required a lot of communication. Besides, Han Hai Group had no lack of money. They didn't need this little bit. Lin Fan politely declined. He was busy with work lately and didn't have time to participate in shows. This matter was put aside for the time being. Later, Lin Fan mentioned the Tourism City project, and he needed the two of them to do some things. Instead of arguing and making trouble, he assigned them a task. You both know Zhou Mei's personality. I, as a man, have basically no topics to talk about with her. You know what to do, right? Su Yufei nodded vigorously. I'll definitely complete the task. I have ways to deal with Zhou Mei. I can't show weakness either. Lu Jiajia also had some ideas. Good. If you succeed, I can grant you one wish, within my power. The two women's eyes lit up. This condition had high operability. Therefore, they couldn't lose. Lin Fan looked at the two of them and said, I hope you can bring good news. That evening, Su Yufei really cooked. She made braised pork ribs. The taste was much better than last time, proving that Su Yufei had put in the effort to learn and do it well. To express his sincerity, Lin Fan went into the bedroom with her. Chapter 82. I can't hold back anymore. In the bedroom, Lin Fan played the role of a guitarist and performed a beautiful melody. Su Yufei was mesmerized. She enjoyed the pleasure the music brought. When the music stopped, Lin Fan looked at the woman in his arms, gently placing her on the bed. He wanted to leave. At this moment, Su Yufei grabbed his hand, opening her mouth with a trembling voice. You are so despicable. You knew I couldn't hold back anymore, and yet you still don't want to give me what I want. Hee, then can you understand how I felt back then? I can understand. Whether it's a man or a woman, we have needs. If you can't satisfy your partner, you are not a good partner. Su Yufei admitted that she was not a good partner. Back then, she only had Li Sheng in her eyes. Lin Fan was nowhere to be seen. The reason she stayed by Lin Fan's side was purely for money, to fulfill her luxurious lifestyle. Lin Fan touched Su Yufei's hair. You have a good self-awareness. If you had any conscience back then, things wouldn't be as they are today. Su Yufei, I'm not afraid to tell you. There is no longer any fertile ground for love between us. The reason I keep you around is just for myself, for some interests. It's okay. Su Yufei not only didn't get angry but also showed a satisfied smile. I just need to stay by your side. Grabbing Lin Fan's hand, she slowly climbed up it. There's a saying that goes, if apologies were useful, what would the police do? Su Yufei knew that her apologies were useless. She could only lower her attitude continuously, lower her bottom line continuously. Relationships based on emotion were not stable. Only physical reactions were the true joy. Please, darling. Upon hearing this, Lin Fan's heart trembled slightly. Perhaps fate was playing its hand. What Zhou Mei said some time ago turned out to be a prophecy. What difference was there between the current Su Yufei and a pet? Okay, don't regret it. Lin Fan's bestial nature took over. He didn't know what consequences his impulsiveness would bring, but there was no turning back. The two were trapped in their desires. That night was earth-shattering and eternal. When Su Yufei lay in his arms, sleeping happily, Lin Fan sighed deeply. Several days passed, and it was now time to look at White Heavy Industries building. Zhou had a sour face, looking at the uninvited guest in front of her. She looked a few years older than her, and her eyebrows and eyes were smiling. She did not look like a good person. Ms. Liu, this seems to be our first time meeting, and you're already saying these things. Isn't that a little inappropriate? Haha, President Zhou. Although this is our first meeting, I've heard many stories about you from Mr. Lin. He says you are a capable woman. Lu Jiejia emphasized the word capable. This made Zhou very uncomfortable. She thought, did that man really say that? Did he have to be so bold? She was half dead with anger after being forcefully kissed last time. Lin Fan knew her situation and still said those things to make her uncomfortable. And now he sent a woman, who, after a few words, wanted to go to the hotel with her to play cards? Does he really think I am a casual woman? Zhou told Lu Jiejia, whether I'm capable or not is another matter. Go back and tell Lin Fan. I am not going to compromise. That was the case before, and that's even more the case now. Ms. Liu, I'll see you out. Oh dear, why so hasty? Lu Jiejia still had a smile, and said, I agree with you. I have no feelings for that man, Lin Fan. Who would believe that? You have no feelings, and yet you came to see me. Lu Jiejia explained that she and Lin Fan were just in a business relationship. They just needed each other. They didn't have much contact in their daily lives. So, there was no way for any feelings to grow. Besides, she came without Lin Fan's knowledge. Oh, you think I'm a 3-year-old? You can't trust a woman's word. It's okay. I'm just expressing my needs. If you think it's meaningless, you can just let it go. However, Ms. Zhou, your company can't afford to delay any longer, can it? Zhou was hit right in the heart. White Heavy Industries' situation had been getting worse recently. She didn't know why, but the amount of projects was decreasing, and the financial reports were looking worse and worse. She even suspected that Han Hai Group was behind it all. However, her secretary, Wang Yani, found out through investigations that the poor financial reports were completely because investors had no confidence in them. The impact of the stock price turmoil some time ago was also significant. White Heavy Industries had fallen to such a state, and it had an undeniable relationship with her, the chairman. Say it. What do you want? Zhou rubbed her temples and asked. Lu Jiejia said something shocking. She came to help White Heavy Industries win the Tourism City project. Zhou widened her eyes. Help us? Aren't you from Han Hai Group? Lin Fan would probably fly into a rage if he heard about this. When did I say that I was from him? She represented the Iron Blood Club, and besides, Lu Jiejia had long been disgusted by Lin Fan. Everyone in the market knew that. Lu Wei was her younger brother, and Lin Fan had already sent him to prison. President Zhou, is there anything wrong with me helping you? Of course, I am not helping for free. After things are done, I want White Heavy Industries to give our Iron Blood Club naming rights. Naming rights are not difficult. Zhou stared into Lu Jiejia's eyes, trying to see any clues. The key is, can I trust you? Without saying anything, Lu Jiejia whispered something into Zhou ear. Are you serious? Absolutely, you can verify it yourself. After hearing the whisper, Zhou thought about it and said yes. Cooperation was possible. However, she needed to verify the information's authenticity. No problem, I can wait for you for a day or two. President Zhou, you have to be quick. Han Hai Group is planning to launch an offensive soon. I have some things to do. I'll wait for good news from you. Lu Jiejia blew a kiss to her and turned to leave. Zhou felt that what Lu Jiejia had said should be true. But her goal was definitely not just a small sponsorship. She must have other motives. But she did tell her a secret about Lin Fan. It was hard to tell for sure. Yani, come to my office. This is what happened. Do you have any ideas? Wang Yani nodded. Lu Jiejia is a good talker, and she is very good at hiding lies and a bunch of truths to muddy the waters. Which sentence is true and which is false? Probably only she knows. So, what should we do? Let's first test if the bait they gave us is delicious or not. With the same thoughts, Zhou nodded. The secret was easy to verify. All they had to do was follow Lin Fan. At this time, Zhou's mind was filled with what Lu Jiejia had just said. President Zhou, I'll tell you a secret. Actually, Mr. Lin often goes to the New Inn Hotel's room 520 with a woman. And once this woman's identity is exposed, you know. Chapter 83. Not a trace of personal feelings. Tracking someone was not honorable. That is, they needed an outsider, someone careful and calm enough. They needed to be sure not to get discovered. Isn't that me? Wang Yani pointed to herself. Look at my expression. Isn't it calm enough? Zhomei looked at her straight face and couldn't help but laugh, teasing her. Haha, I think you are very suitable. This task is given to you. I guarantee that I'll complete the task. And so, Wang Yani followed the agreed time and squatted at the coffee shop opposite the Nguyen Hotel. Like a killer in a movie. She was in disguise. Even her parents wouldn't recognize her. Time passed second by second, and the agreed time was getting closer and closer. They're here. Wang Yani saw from the corner of her eye that Lin Fan and a mysterious woman wearing a mask had walked in from the front door. The two found a seat and sat down. They began talking. But the distance was too far, so she could not hear a thing. On Lin Fan's side, as soon as he sat down, he asked the mysterious woman, Did you suddenly call me out because you want me to see your cosplay? This is Ms. Lu Jiejia in a mask. Don't talk so loud, you'll get discovered. Lu Jiejia took off her mask and said to Lin Fan's ear, Just pretend I'm someone else. Seeing Lin Fan's confusion, she added, Don't worry. I have not put in any of my personal touch. It is completely for Han Hai Group. I don't really believe that. It's okay if you don't believe it. You'll thank me when it's done. Since she said that, Lin Fan hesitated. He decided to believe her for now. He asked back, What do I need to do? You just need to cooperate with me. Don't be surprised by anything I do. Just follow my lead. Lin Fan was a bit unable to keep it together. Was this what it meant to not have a trace of personal feelings? Just then, Lu Jiejia looked at her watch and said, It's almost time. Mr. Lin, quickly kiss me. Kiss me hard. And caress my body, from top to bottom, from outside in. Before she finished speaking, Lin Fan raised his hand to stop her. This was a public place, not a place to do such things. At most, he could just give her a little peck. Be prepared. I'm coming, Lin Fan said as he approached Lu Jiejia's forehead, giving it a light kiss. Wang Yani had already prepared her hidden camera and captured that moment. But she didn't lower her guard. Just a kiss wouldn't prove the truth in Lu Jiejia's words. It was highly likely that the other party was putting on a show. At this time, Zhomei sent a message. What's the situation? Is that Lin Fan getting handsy with the girl? I knew he would do that. Humph. Men. Chairman, it seems a bit different from what you said. Sending the photo, Wang Yani typed, Lin Fan seems very gentlemanly. Not only did he not get handsy, but he also actively cared for the woman's feelings. He didn't even take out his phone. Then what's with the photo? He didn't touch her with his hands, but with his lips, huh? Wang Yani said her thoughts. It was very likely that the kiss was requested by the woman. The woman she saw was very proactive, and she exuded lust. It was different from a couple. Clearly, the woman desired Lin Fan's body. This result was difficult for Zhomei to accept, and she shouted, Impossible. What's so good about that man, Lin Fan? He's just a somewhat handsome and muscular president. Chairman, those all seem like advantages. Also, Chairman, I noticed that you seem to be talking a lot more recently. You wouldn't normally show any unnecessary emotions for such things. It's your imagination. I've always been me. You don't have to emphasize it. I will never form any feelings for a man in this lifetime. That's the best. Putting her phone away, Wang Yani saw that the other party was preparing to leave. Since this place was the best viewing spot, she stayed, watching Lin Fan and the girl through the glass window as they came to the hotel entrance. A sudden situation? Just as they arrived at the entrance, a black motorcycle stopped beside them. Lin Fan raised his eyebrows. What a coincidence. Miss Luna, I haven't seen you in a long time. I thought you went back to the States. I've been a bit busy recently, so I haven't been to see you. Luna took off her helmet, her blonde hair glittering in the sunlight. Seeing the woman beside Lin Fan, she asked, And who is this beautiful lady? Lu Jiejia actively introduced herself, Miss Luna. I am Lu Jiejia from the Iron Blood Club, and also Mr. Lin's friend. Friend? Do friends come here to rent a room? Luna pointed at the sign of the Nguyen Hotel, with no awareness that her words were incorrect. This? Lu Jiejia was momentarily at a loss for words. She had never thought that Luna would be so direct. Lin Fan began to mediate, saying that Miss Luna had grown up abroad, influenced by the free and open discussion over there, so she spoke more directly. Luna realized that Lin Fan was speaking up for her. That meant that she must have said the wrong thing again. Sorry, Jiejia. It's a small matter. After a few pleasantries, the two became familiar with each other. Luna asked her, Then what are you doing here? Surely you didn't come to travel? It's a long story. We do have a reason to come to this hotel. Lu Jiejie was being coy. She was thinking about persuading her to leave. Otherwise, she couldn't be alone with Mr. Lin. So, she whispered to Luna. She said that they did come to the hotel to play cards. According to normal thinking, everyone should retreat, and Lu Jiejie also thought so. Unfortunately, Luna was an unusual woman. She even said, count me in, count me in. I want to join you guys too. You too? Lu Jiejie was stunned. Luna nodded, asking Lin Fan, is it okay? I want to join you guys to play. Okay. Lu Jiejie sighed. People always said that foreigners were open. Now she had seen it for herself. Since Lin Fan had no objections, she didn't either. And so, the three of them tacitly walked into the Nguyen Hotel. Across the street, Wang Yani showed an unbelievable expression for the first time. She immediately took a photo and sent it to Zhou Mei. Chairman, I take back what I said earlier. This Lin Fan seems even more of a scumbag than we thought. One wasn't enough, he needs two. I really don't know if he can handle it. And the second girl is even more beautiful than the first, with an excellent figure. I knew it. Men are all the same. They will never stop being horny. You continue to track them, and it would be best to record evidence of their fun. Wang Yani squinted and opened her mouth slightly. Chairman, are you really serious? Zhou Mei said a few reallys. If they could get the evidence, then they could take the dominant position with White Heavy Industries. It wouldn't be impossible to manipulate Lin Fan. And besides, putting it aside, she hasn't calmed down after being forcefully kissed by him last time. Chapter 84. 3 People Playing Cards. Wang Yani was very obedient. Taking the camera with her, she went to the front desk of the Nguyen Hotel and booked a room number 519. It happened to be right next to Lin Fan's room, with only a wall separating them. Putting aside whether or not the rooms were soundproof, such a close distance made it easier for her to move around. The camera and recorder were all set up. She was just waiting for Lin Fan's side to begin playing cards. But 5 minutes passed, and the room next door was still as silent as ever, as if nobody was staying there. She thought, that's impossible. She had just peeked and seen Lin Fan and the others go into room 520. Could it be that her movements had been discovered? It was possible. First, she locked the door tightly, and then Wang Yani went to the bathroom before making a call. Beep beep beep, Zhou Mei picked up. What's up? Is there any new information? Zhou Mei's voice came from the other end of the phone, trying to sound calm. Wang Yani shook her head and whispered, Chairman, there's a change in the situation. I think I've been discovered. There's not a single sound coming from room 520. I suspect they've already left. That shouldn't be the case. Wait for me, I'll make a call and ask. As she said that, the phone was already beeping. Not long after, Zhou Mei called back, saying that there was nothing. She had invited Lin Fan out for a negotiation, but he said that he was not available right now and would need to change to another time. Then, Zhou Mei said that she could go to Han High Group to find him. Do you know how Lin Fan responded? He said he was not there? Yes. Lin Fan is pretty honest, he's not there. So he's not there. He's not like other men, who would say they weren't there even when they are. Zhou Mei continued, Yani, you continue to stay there. I believe that a scumbag like Lin Fan won't be able to hold out for long. In a while, there will definitely be a lot of action. Okay. The call was hung up again. Wang Yani couldn't help but sigh. Today's chairman seemed particularly proactive. She had never been like this before. The two had known each other for a long time, and the chairman had always been cold toward men, even her father. And the reason for such an attitude stemmed from what happened a few years ago. She still remembered it vividly. It was a cold winter. Wang Yani, who had just graduated, was not having a good time in her career. Not only could she not find a good job, but her family was also deep in debt. Feeling depressed, she went to a bar to drown her sorrows. And it was there that she met the current president of White Heavy Industries, Zhou Mei. That day, Zhou Mei was not in a good mood. She lay on the bar counter early, with several empty bottles around her. Originally, Wang Yani did not want to interfere. After all, the two did not know each other. However, Zhou Mei suddenly grabbed her hand, her mouth also muttering, Kurin, please don't leave me, okay? I can't lose you. I'm not your Kuin. Madam, you've mistaken me for someone else. At the beginning, Wang Yani wanted to pull her hand away. But as the other party's cries became louder and louder, Wang Yani still softened and let her hold on tightly. From the other party's murmurs, Wang Yani learned. Kuin was Zhou Mei's boyfriend. Yes, Kuin was a minor idol. Although his songs were not popular, he still had a large fan base. Zhou Mei was Kuin's #1 whale-level fan. The two had become boyfriend and girlfriend through constant contact. She had thought that the two would eventually walk down the aisle. But Kuan had an affair. The other party was the daughter of a senior singer, with countless resources in her hands. Zhomei was abandoned. She wanted to salvage their relationship, but he bluntly said that he had never loved her. The reason he was with her was only for the money. Now he had found his true love. He would spend the rest of his life with that girl. You told me before not to go public, to give everyone a surprise. Was that also fake? Yes, they were all fake. Hearing this, Zhou Mei's world crumbled. So, the 8 years of love had been fake. All lies from Kuan. Did I do something wrong? For 8 years, I gave him everything he asked for. How could he treat me like this? Zhou Mei picked up another bottle and poured it into her mouth. Wang Yani teared up and hugged her. The two also became close because of this event. And that was how the current Wang Yani and Zhou Mei came to be. Coming back from her memories, Wang Yani took a deep breath. It was because of this betrayal story that Zhou Mei later became taciturn and ignored the advances of other men. It could be said, Lin Fan was the first man to cause an emotional shift in the chairman. As to whether it was good or bad, it was hard to say. At this time, there was a sudden sound of clothes rubbing together in room 520. Wang Yani knew it had started. She aimed the recorder at the wall, while she took the hidden camera and left the room. She wasn't thick-skinned enough to stay in the room and listen to those lovey-dovey sounds. In the blink of an eye, it was evening. Seeing Lin Fan and the others come out of the room, Wang Yani cried out, "Good heavens!" They had been at it for 3 hours. Looking at Lin Fan's steady stride, his stamina was pretty good. Only after the others left the hotel did she recover the recorder and other equipment from the room. Without previewing it, she returned to White Heavy Industries. In front of Zhou Mei, she connected the recorder to the speaker and prepared to play it. Zhou Mei put her hand over the on-off button. Wait a minute. It's better not to connect the speaker. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing if others heard it. As you wish, Chairman. As the recorder started playing, the two were listening very carefully. At first, there was a meaningless noise. Wang Yani fast-forwarded slightly, but the recording was still meaningless noise. She thought that was impossible. She randomly pulled the progress bar and finally recorded clear human voices at a certain point. Ah, Lin Fan, you're amazing. I knew it. Mr. Lin is the strongest at playing cards. Dealing with the two of us is a piece of cake. I'm not as great as you say. I'm just skilled because of practice. Let's do it again. I believe you guys haven't had enough yet. I won't lose this time. Aya, I still can't beat you. I've already lost more than 10 times. Mr. Lin, you really stirred my competitive spirit. Today, I won't leave until I beat you. Damn, I can't do it anymore. Those were the only voices that could be heard clearly. Chairman, why is your face so red? Wang Yani saw that Zhou Mei's face was as red as an apple. Zhou Mei asked back, whose face wouldn't be red when listening to such dirty words? Wang Yani said that she did not have any reaction. Isn't it just playing cards? Usually, when they were free, they would also play cards in mahjong. Oh, I understand. Turn off the recording. Chairman, they are completely playing us. At the beginning, I thought that kind of thing was really happening. It turned out that they were really just playing cards. Wang Yani turned off the recorder and waved her hand helplessly. Since what Lu Jiejia said wasn't true, then, the cooperation didn't need to continue either. Just as Zhou Mei was about to make a decision, Wang Yani said, but I think we can turn this into an advantage. Chapter 85. Love is mutual understanding. 2 flowers bloom, each on its own branch. While Lu Jiejia was doing her best for the project, Su Yufei was not idle either. This day, she and Zhou Mei met at the Queen Bar, preparing to make a deal. Miss Su, inviting me out here, could it be that you've come to your senses? Zhou Mei looked at her with scrutinizing eyes. Su Yufei nodded and said, I've come to my senses, that's why I asked you to come out. Sister Mei, I'll cut to the chase. If White Heavy Industries can give up on the Tourism City project, I can't agree to one of your conditions. Seeing Zhou Mei only smile slightly, Su Yufei added, anything will do. Whether it was money or her. For Lin Fan, Su Yufei had really gone all out. What was Zhou Mei's attitude? Su Yufei was not more important than that project. The result was a rejection. Zhou Mei did not lack women. Money? Su Yufei clearly couldn't afford it. If she had both, she could consider it. You tell Lin Fan to give me 10 billion, and I can give you the project. 10 billion is not a small amount. Sister Mei, there's no need for you to use impossible conditions to deal with me. Zhou Mei grinned. 10 billion was just a small case for Han High Group. If they didn't want to pay, then don't say that anything would do. Getting up, she told Su Yufei that the condition was 10 billion, whether Lin Fan agreed or not. In any case, White Heavy Industries was ready to fight Han High Group to the end. Su Yufei grabbed her hand. Can't two companies cooperate well and become friends? Haha, friends? Who would want to be friends with that scumbag? In Zhoumei's impression, Lin Fan was the most dangerous type of scumbag. Not only did he juggle multiple women, but he also did not want to be responsible. What else was that if not a scumbag? Just the ones she knew were Lu Jujia, Su Yufei, and that model Luna. God knows how many others he had on the side. That just proves that men were not good. They all thought with their lower bodies. She advised Su Yufei not to be with that man. It would only bring misfortune. You don't understand Lin Fan. He's actually a very good person. Hee. In what way is Lin Fan good? He has a good body, a good background, and he's good to me too. Hearing these comments, Zhoumei knew that there was no point in persuading her. This Su Yufei was too deep in her delusion. She even thought that Lin Fan was a good person. Su Yufei told her to let go of her prejudice and slowly told her the story of what had happened to her. At first, she did not like Lin Fan. She always thought he wasn't interesting enough. He was always busy, focusing on his career more than he did her. That's just the excuse that a self-absorbed man will make. He doesn't like you, that's why he's putting his partner aside. Zhoumei suddenly added, "No, listen to what I have to say. Whether one liked another was just a woman's one-sided understanding. Some men were the type who did not know how to express themselves. They believed that love was about giving their girls a good future, and that the future was based on having sufficient resources. Doing this would make girls feel neglected. It would be like saying, 'Does he not like me anymore? Why doesn't he take the initiative to talk to me? Why doesn't he reply immediately to my messages?' Over time, the relationship between the two would become increasingly tense, and their feelings would gradually break down. Think about it. If at this time, a man who was good at sensing her emotions and making her happy suddenly burst into her life, what would happen?" Zhoumei said plainly, "Then he will replace the original man. Yes, doing it well is called finding true love. Doing it poorly is called cheating. I admit, I was the one who cheated in the past." When her ex-boyfriend Li Sheng suddenly reappeared in her life, Su Yufei gradually remembered the time they were in love. At that time, although they did not have much money, but Li Sheng had a naughty personality, he would make her laugh and would make her happy. So, she cheated. Later, Su Yufei suffered the backlash of public opinion and understood Lin Fan's neglect. She finally realized that she had long taken Lin Fan's kindness for granted, and that she had completely failed his intentions. There's a saying that goes, "Men are rational and women are emotional." If two people can't understand each other in a relationship, then this relationship cannot go to the end. After speaking, Su Yufei showed a smile. "Sister May, can you see anything from my story? I know what you're trying to express, that Lin Fan is actually a good person. But I'm not afraid to tell you, this type of person is a failure." "Why do you say that?" "It's just that, I was also that kind of person before." Zhoumei did not say much, but her attitude had changed slightly. "Yufei, I know that Lin Fan sent you here to try and persuade me. Have you not thought about why I am not willing to give in? Because of the financial crisis of White Heavy Industries, right?" So you guys knew." Su Yufei touched Zhoumei's hair and said, "Lin Fan told me. He also emphasized that I shouldn't tell you in front of you." That damn scumbag is actually good at taking care of my self-esteem." Zhoumei lifted her glass of wine and swirled it, and then drank it all in one go. The liquor did not help Zhoumei's depression. She was still unable to let it go. And so, she ordered another cocktail. "You can't drink anymore. I don't have the strength to carry you back. Instead of suffering in reality, I'd rather be happy in my dreams. Don't stop me. I want to drink more." As she spoke, Zhoumei had already started crying. Perhaps her long-held emotions were unable to be released. She had shown her fragile side. The concept of responsibility was too heavy. Even someone as strong as Lin Fan might not be able to withstand the pressure. Not to mention, Zhoumei, this woman. "You've already done very well, Sister May." Su Yufei hugged Zhoumei's body. Holding the crying woman in her arms, Su Yufei thought of Lin Fan, thinking, "So, when Lin Fan hugs me, is this how it feels?" Emotions are contagious. She silently shed tears as well. The two huddled together, and she could vaguely hear Su Yufei's sobbing voice offering comfort. She didn't know how long it had been, but Zhoumei woke up from her sleep. As soon as she opened her eyes, She saw Su Yufei smiling at her. "You're awake?" Looking around, Zhou found that she had returned home. She couldn't help but ask, "Wait, when did I get back?" "Aya, you got drunk. So, I asked that person to send you back." "That person? Was it Yanni?" Just then, the door opened, and a tall man walked in with hangover soup. Seeing that the person was Lin Fan, Zhou was stunned. Su Yufei explained that it was she who had called Lin Fan. After all, she, a girl, couldn't have handled it. "Ms. Zhou, what's the matter? You don't welcome me, the kind-hearted person? Why did it have to be you?" Zhou turned her head away, her face flushed. Such a scenario, of being saved by someone you hated, was truly embarrassing. Chapter 86, Kai-Su, formerly known as Zhang Kuan, is an idol star. "You don't welcome me? I'm leaving." Lin Fan put down the hangover soup and turned to leave. Zhou spoke up, "Don't leave yet. I still have something to tell you." Nervous and uncomfortable, she finally squeezed out the words, "Thank you." Lin Fan nodded in response. Then, he left. Inside the room, only Su Yufei and Zhou were left. Su Yufei wanted to leave, but Zhou grabbed her hand. "Stay with me for a while. I have some things to tell you." "Okay, I don't have anything important to do now anyway." The two chatted for a long time, until Wang Yanni came in from outside. "Chairman, I have something urgent." "Ah, so Ms. Su is here too? You can talk. Yufei is not an outsider." "Then I'll say it." "Chairman, someone called and said that they wanted to see you." Wang Yanni said it was someone called Kai-Su, saying that they were acquainted with the chairman and wanted to arrange a time to meet. As she spoke, she saw Zhou expression become increasingly surprised, as if she had heard something unbelievable. Hearing Kai-Su, Su Yufei's eyes lit up. "Kai-Su is coming? I heard he went overseas to develop his career." "Sister Mei, you too?" "Sister Mei, did I say something wrong?" Zhou eyes were full of anger, and she stood up shouting at Wang Yanni, "You go and reply. Say that I don't agree. Let that guy go to hell." The other two were frightened. Who would have thought that Zhou would have such a big reaction to this name? "Okay." Wang Yanni left the room slowly with doubts. Not knowing much about Zhou, Su Yufei was bewildered. What relationship did this Kai-Su have with Zhou? She dared not ask, so Su Yufei could only offer some comfort. "Sister Mei, calm down. I've always known that Kai-Su was not a good person. He impregnated someone and didn't take responsibility, and he even committed tax evasion." She said that, but in fact Su Yufei had been Kai-Su's fan before, supporting each of his albums with hundreds or thousands of purchases. It was just that recently she had become obsessed with Lin Fan and had lost interest in this type of minor star. She had thought that saying a few comforting words would make Zhou happy. She did not expect that she was still very angry. She had a feeling that there must be some secrets between the two of them. As we all know, if a woman is angry and can't be comforted, the matter becomes very serious. Not long after, Wang Yanni ran in again, holding a phone in her hand. "Chairman, that person called again. Should I pick up or not?" "I'll pick it up." Su Yufei saw an opportunity to perform and took the phone. She immediately started cursing. "Didn't I tell you not to call again? Are you blind or deaf? I'm telling you, don't call again. You bring bad luck." After saying that, the other party was silent for a few seconds, and then said, "Is this Ms. Zhou's number? Did I dial the wrong number?" "You did not dial the wrong number. I am Zhou. Your actions have even made my throat change." Su Yufei twisted her throat, using a fake voice. The other party simply did not believe it and insisted that Zhou answer the call. He was calling to apologize. The word apologize made Zhou lose control, grabbing the phone. "Mr. Kai, there is no longer any possibility between us. Can you not call me anymore?" "Ah, Mayor, it's you. I miss you so much." Kai-Su's voice came through, sounding as if he was crying. "Who is your mayor? I'm warning you, don't use that name." "Mayor, I know I was wrong. In the past, I did not care about your feelings and caused so much pain to you. Since breaking up with you, I have not been able to eat or sleep. My mind is full of your face." Zhou sneered and continued to speak. "See who still believes in this liar. What's the matter? Why aren't you saying anything? Didn't you say that you came to apologize? Are you mute? If you're a mute, then go and treat it quickly, and don't come here and make a fool of yourself. I'm telling you, your few broken songs are like poop. If I hadn't spent money to help you manipulate data and buy fans, would you have reached where you are today? Also, when I heard that you were exposed, I don't know how happy I was. That night, I didn't even try to diet. I drank 3 cups of jasmine milk tea. Tell me, aren't you angry? After a series of complaints, the other side became silent, seeming as though Zhou Mei had hit a sore spot. Finally, the other side was able to say something, and what he said was, Zhou Mei, putting aside the facts, do you not have even a little bit of fault? If it wasn't for you not understanding my career, for wanting me to marry you, I wouldn't have done such things. Huh? Do you have any shame? What kind of face do I have left? Zhou Mei, it's all your fault. When it was his turn, Zhou Mei simply hung up the phone. No matter how much Kai-Su complained, it was useless, because she had also added him to her blacklist. After doing all this, Zhou Mei finally felt much better. The anger on her face had transformed into a faint smile. I'm sorry for letting you two see such a scene. Wang Yani said that it was nothing, that anything the chairman did was right, and that she fully supported her. Su Yufei was stunned for a few seconds, and also agreed. But hearing it unintentionally, she also had an inkling, as if she had seen herself in the past. She was unconsciously a little ashamed and guilty. Besides, that Kai-Su was clearly a grown man, but he spoke like a girl. How had she not noticed this before? By the way, I want to ask you, Sister Mei, could it be that you were that only loved Susu? Those are all old stories. Don't mention them anymore. Zhou Mei heard her old internet name and wanted to find a hole to hide in. Getting a confirmation, Su Yufei finally understood. Kai-Su was a stage name. In fact, his real name was Zhang Kuan, an idol star. When Su Yufei was a fan, she had often seen the #1 whale-level female fan called Only Love Susu. At that time, the support group often had inside information, saying that the two were actually a couple. I am currently single. Kai-Su had said this before. Those fans would definitely follow his steps, clarifying and handling public relations in different places. Later, Kai-Su went public with another famous actress on Weibo. She remembered that at that time, Kai-Su had said, yes, we are in love. The rumors were immediately dispelled, and Only Love Susu also announced that she was giving up on being a fan and would no longer manage the fan club. Now it seemed that many unexpected things had happened behind the scenes. The so-called fans were all being deceived. Thinking that she was also a fan before, Su Yufei felt disgusted. What a mess, this guy. Sister Mei, you cursed well, and you cursed perfectly. It even opened up my mammary glands. Ha ha ha, no, if I hadn't restrained myself, I would have cursed that scumbag to death. Yes, I said it, that kind of person is scum. Lin Fan is 100 times better than him. That does have a point. Zhou Mei thought to herself. Perhaps she could try to contact Lin Fan. Maybe he was not as bad as she had imagined. Chapter 87. Reaching a preliminary agreement. The next day, Zhou Mei and Lin Fan arranged to meet at the top-floor restaurant. As the intermediary between the two, Su Yufei was also present. Looking at both sides, she said, there's no need for us to fight to the death. The project can completely be divided into 2 parts. Making money together is the best way. That's what she said, but how to get the degree right, so that both parties can be satisfied. Zhou Mei of White Heavy Industries was the first to state her plan. They were willing to make a concession, handing over the initial engineering work of the project to Han Hai Group. Don't think that Nuan City is small. There are a lot of traditional tourist attractions, and most of these attractions have been in disrepair for many years and need to be renovated later. Such a large-scale project would have a very considerable profit. White Heavy Industries would ensure the subsequent operation of the scenic spots and not let down the hard work of Han Hai Group. Mr. Lin, what do you think? Not good. Lin Fan said plainly. Although the profits of the engineering work are considerable, they are one-time. It's not like the operation of the scenic spots, which can bring in a continuous stream of income. Ms. Zhou, I don't think White Heavy Industries has shown enough sincerity. Hearing these words, Zhou Mei retorted, the operation of scenic spots can have a continuous stream of income? Mr. Lin, haven't you seen some projects that are not profitable and are already on the verge of bankruptcy? For example, the buses in Nuan City, if they did not have government subsidies, they would probably have gone bankrupt long ago. The meaning was that White Heavy Industries was willing to bear most of the risk, handing over the stable and profitable initial project to Han Hai Group. That was their greatest sincerity. Lin Fan did not agree. Whether or not one could make money depended on the company's strength and influence. Their Han Hai Group had several well-known brands, and he believed that they could attract many tourists. Even if there was risk, the financial strength of Han Hai Group was enough to support it. He asked Ms. Zhou, could she bear such risk? I know that Han Hai Group is a giant, compared to which our White Heavy Industries is just a small company. but I may not be worse than you. Zhomei was unwilling to admit defeat. The two discussed and discussed, but still could not reach a consensus. Su Yufei asked them to stop for a moment. She had a suggestion she wanted to make. Since White Heavy Industries itself was in the business of engineering, the initial project could be handled by the specialized White Heavy Industries. As for the subsequent operation of the scenic spots, Han Hai Group was their strength, so it would be better to hand it over to them. Of course, White Heavy Industries would definitely not accept such a condition, so she suggested that Han Hai Group concede a bit of the profits to subsidize White Heavy Industries. Or, they could use an investment method and have a portion of the profits. Speaking like that, both parties could be satisfied, and Lin Fan added, "There's no need to invest. Han Hai Group can guarantee the follow-up investment and will consider White Heavy Industries first. And for the projects in the next 2 years, we will not compete with White Heavy Industries." It could be said that Han Hai Group's sincerity was very sufficient. Just the projects for the next 2 years alone were worth billions of dollars. To be honest, Zhomei was already tempted. With the engineering payments, their White Heavy Industries could barely survive this financial report crisis. Not to mention that Lin Fan had promised them the priority for subsequent investments and the right to select projects for the next 2 years. A smile appearing on her face, Zhomei said, "Since Han Hai Group is so sincere, then our White Heavy Industries must also show some sincerity. Mr. Lin, do you see what this is?" Several photos were handed over to Lin Fan, and he found that they were the photos of Lu Jujia kissing him at the cafe that day. There were also a few more. They were of them going into the hotel and coming out of the hotel. What does this mean? Lin Fan questioned Zhomei. "I don't think I understand your sincerity." Zhomei told him not to rush to a conclusion. She picked up the photos and tore them apart with force until they were in shreds. Then, Zhomei took out a roll of tape and threw it into the trash can. "Mr. Lin, this is my sincerity." Lin Fan nodded. The result was self-evident. The two had reached a preliminary consensus, and Su Yufei was the happiest. She held Lin Fan's hand and said proudly, "It's all my doing. Aren't you going to praise me?" Okay. I'll give you a reward tonight." "Not tonight. Give me a reward now. I want it now." "Ahem. Su Yufei, have you forgotten what I said to you? Be obedient. When the time comes, I will naturally give you a corresponding reward." Besides, Ms. Zhou was still here. Zhomei immediately got up. "I won't disturb you anymore." After saying that, she left her seat. Looking back, she could see that Su Yufei had already climbed onto Lin Fan's body, placing a kiss on his lips. She did not know why, but Zhomei felt a strange sense of irritation when she saw such a scene, and she couldn't understand why. The joy of reaching a cooperation agreement was gradually taken over by this emotion. Without thinking too much, she quickly turned to leave. Just as she came outside, her phone rang. Seeing that it was an unfamiliar number, she wanted to hang up. But the other party kept calling several times, and Zhomei picked it up casually. "Is this Zhomei of White Heavy Industries?" "Yes, it is, please speak." "So you're Zhomei. I thought you'd have such a sweet voice, but you're no different from a normal woman." The person who called was a very young girl, her voice full of disdain. And Zhomei knew that the other party was looking for trouble. "So," she retorted, "I don't care who you are. As an elder, I have to remind you that politeness is a required course in society. Being polite won't make you look like you have no upbringing." "Haha, why would I be polite to a slut like you?" The other party was still rude. There was no need to say anything at this point. Zhomei hung up directly and added the other party's number to her blacklist. After only a few steps, the phone rang nonstop again. One after another, it was endless. At the same time, she kept receiving text messages cursing her, all of them saying how much of a slut Zhomei was. How could there be such a shameless slut? What exactly was going on? Why were so many people bombing her number today? Carefully checking the text messages, Zhomei saw an infuriating one. It read, "It's all because of you that Brother Su's career is going downhill. You should go to hell, Zhomei." Zhomei finally realized that these people were Kai Su's fans. She couldn't help but smile. Good. Inciting fans to cyberbully her. Huh. Kai Su, you stupid idiot. She turned off her phone, and the noises finally stopped. Zhomei finally realized what that feeling of irritation was. It was clearly jealousy. Seeing the relationship between Su Yufei and Lin Fan, she admitted that she was very jealous. Chapter 88. An extreme true fan. Compared to Su Yufei, she lacked love. Since she was a child, her father had been strict with her, wishing he could train her to be his successor. As a result, she had originally wanted to apply for a music major, But her father changed her major to civil engineering. When she questioned her father, he would only say that it was for her own good. He also said that young people these days only pursued the immediate pleasures and did not think about their future. What was the point of studying music? To be a singer? You don't have the ability, nor the luck. You might as well just study civil engineering properly, which matches the company's main business. After graduation, you can work in the family company. Jomei said okay through tears. She gave up on the things she liked and buried herself in work at the company. After finally making some achievements, she thought that her family would be proud of her. Yet, her father said, "You are still far from enough. If I had not laid a solid foundation for you, you would not have been able to do this." Of course, I'm not demeaning you. You have to know, there are many people like you in the market, so don't think you're so great. Since then, their relationship could be said to be completely over. Jomei no longer had any feelings for this father. Instead, she felt disgust. It was also at that time that a singer named Kai Su entered her life. Listening to his songs, Jomei was inspired. She went from liking music to liking Kai Su. And it was at one of the airport pickup events that she personally saw this man she had been dreaming of. Their eyes met, and Jomei felt that this handsome guy was her future partner. That time when they were in love, she was busy and happy. She missed her long-distance boyfriend so much and wanted to call him every day to chat. But Kai Su's reason was always that he was working, or that he didn't have the time. She understood. She understood very much. It was normal for a man to put other things at home aside for his career. Now looking back, at that time she was already caught in the idol trap. This idol trap can make people lose their reason. They believe and support unconditionally. When they see other people saying that their idol is not good, they would refute them and try to use corresponding evidence to slap them in the face. And because there is a distance, there was beauty. These fans did not know what their idols were like behind the scenes. They could only see the idol's aura. The entertainment industry was so messy partly because of this idol aura. As she got older, Jomei knew that chasing stars was not a bad thing. Through chasing stars, you can release stress and you can learn the good qualities of the idol. But chasing stars can only be about their work, not about the person. Otherwise, this would happen today. Kai Su's fans were mostly younger, underage students who were still in school. Young children had not yet formed a mature set of values and could easily be led by the nose by some people. If an idol cannot lead fans to be positive, then he does not deserve to be an idol, but instead was just an actor who was purely using his popularity to seek profit. By coincidence, Kai Su was the latter type. If she was not mistaken, then her phone was being bombarded today most likely due to Kai Su's unintentional guidance. Going online, she searched for Kai Su. On his main page, she saw the Weibo post he had made today. Former acquaintances meeting, now strangers. Below was a handsome photo of Kai Su in ancient clothing, standing in front of a bamboo forest. You could see that his expression was indifferent, and his face had some sadness. People who did not know him would think that Kai Su was filming somewhere. It was different for the fans. They could immediately see that their brother's expression was off, and they would immediately link it to whether he was sad about something. In addition to the text, it was as if he had been hurt by someone. With only this information, fans would only grieve secretly and comfort him. Unexpectedly, there was a comment with a lot of likes, which was, "Brother, we will always be by your side." Unlike that person. That person was referring to Jomei. Ever since she quit, it had become a taboo topic, and they could not even say her name. The result was what could be expected. With Kai Su's implicit guidance, some of his extreme fans sent Jomei's number to the anti-black team and demanded that all members of the anti-black team bomb her number. And the key was this. You could not even refute it. If you did, those extreme fans would only become more riled up and attack you with more so-called evidence, and they might even do more outrageous things. And if you did not refute it, those people would think that you were guilty and that they had exposed you. Following that would be historical revisionism. They would dig up all of your black history, and some people would even search for your personal information and post it on the internet. There was no way to win. When Kai Su said those words, there was no room for any retreat. The two could be considered enemies. Driving back to the company. Sure enough, the attacks from the other party came one after the other. "Hello, we are from the tax bureau. Someone reported that your company is engaging in tax evasion. Please cooperate with our investigation." The staff entered from the front door. Jomei had just returned and stepped up. "Hello, I am Jomei, the chairman of White Heavy Industries. Just tell me what's going on. We want to check your company's accounts and tax records." "No problem, follow me." During the investigation, another group of people came. They said that they were from the fire department. Someone had reported that White Heavy Industries fire facilities had problems, so they came to inspect. Before they were done, another group came. Zhou could only ask other colleagues to assist with the inspection. It took them half a day, and the comrades from the tax bureau and the fire department finally finished the inspection and left. The result, of course, was that there were no problems. Those fans were intentionally reporting them, without considering reality at all. Wang Yani asked, could it be that Kai-Su was behind this? Who else could it be? It's clearly his fault, but he's acting like a victim. Zhou Mei's mood was already bad, and now she was on the verge of exploding. Chairman, should we call the police? If Kai-Su's fans continue to make trouble unreasonably, there will be big problems for our company's operation and image. Yes, we should call the police. And we also need to put out a company statement and a lawyer's letter. Just then, the comrades from the police station also arrived. Where is the person in charge of White Heavy Industries? That's me. Zhou Mei walked over helplessly. Hello, comrade. Someone called the police and said that a bomb was planted in White Heavy Industries. Therefore, we need you to evacuate immediately. Zhou Mei was really angry. Where would her company have a bomb? Besides, it was during working hours. If they had to investigate, it would definitely waste most of their time. No matter what she said, the police also needed to fulfill their responsibility, and they asked the bomb experts to conduct a thorough investigation of the entire White Heavy Industries building. Chapter 89. Sis, I'm begging you. The result was predictable. Of course, there wasn't anything. It was simply impossible. Those extreme fans were completely wasting police resources. It could be said that they had already reached the point of breaking the law. Zhou Mei was furious. She truthfully reported everything that happened today to the police officer, hoping to sue these extreme people. Soon after, she received a phone call informing her that the case had been accepted and that White Heavy Industries would be notified of any results. At the same time, White Heavy Industries' public account also released a statement. The recent accusations and slanders against White Heavy Industries are completely unfounded. White Heavy Industries has collected evidence and submitted it to the police. We believe that certain people with ulterior motives will be punished by law. After the announcement was released, in a luxurious villa, Kai-Su was finishing up work. He put on his clothes. And there was also a naked middle-aged woman on the bed, smoking a cigarette and playing on her phone. She snuffed out the cigarette in the ashtray, and looking at Kai-Su beside her, said, "Why so hurried? Come sit next to me. Sis has something to say to you." Sis, coming right up. Kai-Su sat down there and took the woman's fair arm. It wasn't that he did not want to refuse. He had no way to refuse. The woman beside him was a famous director and screenwriter. She was also Kai-Su's sugar mama. If he offended this woman, Kai-Su would not be able to stay in the entertainment industry in China. Sisterly slowly said, "Su, the incident that you caused last time was quite big. Sis is not very happy." "Aya, I was wrong. Sis, you don't know. I took good care to keep everything secret at that time, and I also put away my phone. I didn't expect that woman to go back on her words and say that she was going to report me. How could Kai-Su not know what the other party wanted? Wasn't it money? She used this matter to threaten him, so as to obtain money. This was just a small, common trick in the entertainment industry. If they could come to an agreement, then the woman would take the money and leave, and would not expose this matter. Later, everyone knew. It was all over the internet, saying that Kai-Su had an illegitimate child. The reason for that was definitely that they couldn't come to an agreement. The woman asked for 50 million. Come on, it was true that idols earned a lot of money, but they also paid a lot of taxes, and a large portion had to go to the company. It was as if a woman could just casually demand 50 million from him. How could he give it to her? The result was that his career in China was ruined, and he could only turn to the overseas market. Fortunately, there was a group of true love fans who stayed by his side, so that he wouldn't starve to death. Today, the reason he had gone to Cicely was to ask her, "Sis, I believe I still have some value. After all, relationships have nothing to do with my excellent music sales. Believe me, I can continue to conquer the masses with my music." Cicely knew that he just wanted to return to China. Was it possible? There weren't many opportunities, to be honest. "Su, your popularity before the incident was indeed not bad. However, this illegitimate child incident has been very damaging to you. Those endorsement and advertising companies no longer trust you. Even if you can make a comeback, you won't reach the same level as before. I advise you to continue your career overseas. How do I put it? At least in China, you won't be able to get past the public opinion." That was the truth, but Kai-Su did not want to admit defeat. Recently, he had posted a few Weibo posts, and they did not have as much controversy. It could be seen that the netizens had probably lost interest in this matter. In addition to the retention of his core fan base, the company's revenue should not be bad. As someone within the industry, Cicely did not have high expectations for Kai-Su's return. She said that Kai-Su was now a tainted artist. Relying solely on those fans was not enough to bring the company a continuous source of profits. Think about it. How much money can fans make for you? Even if they all bought 100 albums each, how much would that be? Or even if they went to every concert that you had, it would not be enough to cover the expenses. The big bucks were still those endorsements and advertising companies. Before, Kai-Su was very popular, and his traffic was very high. There were so many variety shows and films that he could almost choose which one he wanted. You have to know that recording one episode of a variety show could give you an income of millions, not to mention that Kai-Su was very popular, so his income would be even higher. Relying on fans won't work. That was Cicely's conclusion. Besides, to fix the influence of Kai-Su's illegitimate child, she did not know how much money she had invested, or how many connections she had found. It was already very good that he could continue his career overseas. When things had calmed down, then they could consider coming back. Since Cicely's thoughts were like that, even if Kai-Su was unwilling, he could only accept it calmly. The two discussed things further, before reluctantly parting. When only Kai-Su was left in the room, he thought of Zhou Mei. The Weibo post that he had made this morning should have had a big impact on her. Why hadn't she called him to beg him to stop? Could it be that the attacks weren't fierce enough? That couldn't do. Zhou Mei was another hope for him to make a comeback. He couldn't let that woman feel good. He had to make her beg him. So, he took the initiative and dialed Zhou Mei's number. After finding out that he had been blacklisted, he immediately used another number to call. When the call was picked up, it was a man speaking. Hello, hello? Hello. I clearly dialed Mayor's number. Why did you pick up? By the way, let me introduce myself. I am Kai-Su. You should have heard of my songs, right? Oh, it's Mr. Kai. The other party was very calm. There was clearly no joy or panic at hearing that he was Kai-Su. As such, Kai-Su became displeased. Who hadn't been respectful and surprised to meet him, it made him feel like he had lost face. His voice immediately became rude. Sir, please give the phone back to Mayor, okay? I can see that you are not her friend. Friend? In a sense, we are partners. This Mr. Kai? What exactly is your relationship with Ms. Zhou? The other party asked. Kai-Su snorted, saying that he was Mayor's boyfriend. They were the kind of close lovers that could be seen naked by each other. The sound of whispering came through the phone. I understand. So, you guys aren't actually boyfriend and girlfriend? Oh, you're enemies. Hearing these words, Kai-Su shouted loudly, Mayor, are you there? I'm Su. I'm also Kuan that you spoke of. Please say a few words to me, okay? The other party replied that she could not. Mr. Kai, Ms. Zhou doesn't want to talk to you. Please do not harass her again, okay? No, that's all your words. And now I'm a bit doubtful that Mayor is even over there. You're definitely making things up. If you want proof, then let Mayor talk to me on the phone. The answer, of course, was no. The man's voice was calm and cold, like icy spring water. Do you know that you're acting like a loser? Do you really need to be put in the ground before you believe it? Mr. Kai, I suggest you try to keep it classy. Chapter 90. Imparting experience and perspectives, Zhou Mei felt at ease. Kai-Su was fuming. He wanted to curse back, but the other party had already hung up the phone. Feeling very wronged, he actually started to cry. Are you guys playing me? You two wait and see. On the other side, Lin Fan turned off the screen and handed the phone to Zhou Mei. It could be seen that his expression was mostly calm, as if the things that he had done were very simple. Zhou Mei's expression was not so simple. It was hard to imagine that a man's emotions could be so stable. According to her understanding, Lin Fan should have broken down and then started cursing. Lin Fan did not do that, but instead, he spoke slowly and knew what was on her mind, rejecting the other party directly. It was just that the last sentence was a bit ambiguous. But the words were blunt and not unreasonable. That sentence could prove that Lin Fan was not a cold machine. He was actually someone who had blood and flesh and emotions. In short, seeing Kai-Su being roasted, the grievances that she had suffered today had lessened a lot. Thank you. Saying those words, Zhou Mei was very natural. Lin Fan thought that it was just something he had done, and was no big deal. At this time, Zhou Mei suddenly said, Mr. Lin, me coming uninvited. I hope I'm not disturbing you? I know why you are here, so you are not disturbing me. Oh, so you saw the announcement. Yes, yes. I feel sorry that your company is suffering slander. Zhou smiled, saying that there was no need for them to be so formal, they could be more natural. After chatting for a few words, she said that she did have some things that she needed Lin Fan to help her with. Since Han Hai Group had experience being attacked by public opinion, she wanted to ask him how to deal with it. Of course, Zhou did not come for nothing. She also brought something. Mr. Lin, is your father's health any better? This is some qi and blood replenishing medicinal herbs that I brought. Please do not refuse them. I will thank you on behalf of my father. Lin Fan nodded in agreement. In the past few days, Lin's father's health had indeed improved a lot, and he had already been transferred out of the ICU and into a normal ward. It was thanks to the National Treasure level experts that Zhou had found that he was able to pull through. With the consultation of several experts, they had finally made an operation plan and had saved his father. To be honest, Lin Fan should be the one to thank Zhou, but Zhou kept deflecting the thanks, saying that Mr. Lin's health was the most important thing. The two kept deflecting the thanks, and there was no result. Since the other party was so sincere, then it was okay for him to talk about the little experience that he had. First of all, you need to have confidence when facing public opinion. If you don't have confidence, you will very likely be exposed by the other party. It was a case of I am weak, so my enemies are strong. And if my enemies are strong, I must be stronger. That was the logic behind it. Those people who stirred up public opinion would take advantage of your weaknesses, so the first thing to do was to show them your announcement and lawyer's letter. Zhou had done very well on this point. Being affirmed, Zhou was actually very happy inside. Besides, what Lin Fan said made sense. According to her observations, those celebrities who were exposed would also quickly deny the accusations and issue a lawyer's letter. Putting aside whether or not it was useful, at least it could stabilize the fans' emotions. In the market, it was to stabilize the investors and the retail investors. To avoid the stock price plummeting, Lin Fan continued, second, you need to quickly establish a board of directors to carry out a rescue plan. Investors were very sensitive. As soon as there was any sign of trouble, it would spread everywhere. The results would be reflected in the stock price. Especially the stock market in China, it was even more like that. As soon as trading opened, the prices would definitely fall sharply, and whether or not you could recover those losses depended on the strength and public relation skills of each company. I see that the public opinion your company is facing this time is not too bad. The stock price may fluctuate slightly, but there is no need for you to intervene. It is indeed as you said, Mr. Lin, your market insight is very strong. After White Heavy Industries opened, there was a slight decrease, but it was not too much and could be accepted. Last time for Han Hai Group, the stock price had directly dropped to the lowest limit. If it wasn't for Mr. Lin's actions, the company would have suffered much bigger losses. Compared to Lin Fan, Zhou admitted that she had much to learn. What about after that? I believe that public opinion will not stop there. Yes. So, what we have to do is to find out the source and send him in. Zhou eyes lit up. How to send him in? Some people act very secretly and do not leave behind any evidence. Lin Fan had a way to deal with these types of people. They may not leave behind any evidence, but it does not mean that their mental fortitude is up to par. If there is suspicion, you can directly call the police and submit the evidence that you believe is sufficient to support your claims. If the other party's mental fortitude is not good, then they would confess everything in one go. Of course, there was an exception. That was if the defendant was not just one person, but a group that had already formed. And coincidentally, the public opinion that Zhou was facing was this type of situation. She couldn't possibly arrest all of the fans who were attacking her. The key was, most of Kai Su's fans were underage. They would likely end up with just a warning. It had to be said that, in today's society, the cost of crimes committed by minors is too low. Just like last time, the case of 3 minors killing their classmate still had not been announced. Mr. Lin, the things that you've taught are very useful. I will thank you on behalf of White Heavy Industries first. Zhou decided to take things one step at a time. Kai Su might not stop here, so she would find an opportunity to negotiate with him. He just wanted to talk with her. Currently, White Heavy Industries was already teetering. It would be better to not cause any more trouble. Being able to solve big issues by making them small issues, and solving small issues by making them disappear, was the best approach. At this time, Lin Fan's voice suddenly rang out, Ms. Zhou, I see that you seem to have some concerns. Is there anything you don't understand? Not really. I agree very much with your plan. Apart from that, Lin Fan shook his head, saying that Zhou's state of mind was not correct. Having confidence was not just about saying it. Trust him, If White Heavy Industries shows even a bit of a compromising attitude, then the other party's attacks would only become fiercer. It was like in love. You constantly retreated, constantly lowered your standards, only trying to make the other person happy, and only doing what she wanted. What would happen? Those words directly shocked Zhou Mei. Her eyes became unfocused as she mumbled. The other party would take advantage of it, until they controlled me. And then, the last sentence, she could not say. Lin Fan said it for her. And then you would become the other party's slave, or even just a pet that they could order around. Then what can I do? Mr. Lin, please teach me. To be honest, looking at the current situation of White Heavy Industries, it is indeed difficult to fight back. However, what? Han Hai Group is willing to help White Heavy Industries out. Lin Fan's words made Zhou Mei suddenly understand, and the panic that she felt in her heart disappeared in an instant. What came after that was a sense of peace. Right. With the giant that was Han Hai Group with Lin Fan, what else did she have to fear? With an elated smile, Zhou Mei asked Lin Fan, "Do you need my help? I can do anything." Showing a slight smile, Lin Fan said that it was not needed. Even if it was a towering tree with luxuriant branches, in the face of the storm that Han Hai Group was about to unleash, there would only be the result of being destroyed.